Hello and welcome to Arizona versus Lori Daybell Day 1 recap with Joe Schmo and Trial TV Live. I am the Squeegee of Justice. Thank you for joining us, Joe. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for this dual stream. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate being here.
Yeah, right on. We worked out a few kinks there, but I think we got it all sorted out.
Now I got to get my lighting sorted out. I think I look a little bit blue, like I feel Smurfish.
Yeah, you're going through your jazz period,
Right.
your blue note period.
I was craving some Miles Davis.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I could get with that kind of blue.
Yep.
So day one, for those that don't know, Joe has been in the courtroom. He was there for jury selection. We did a recap. We did a dual stream then. Joe hosted today. Tonight we're hosting. Tomorrow Joe is going to host. So we're kind of taking turns hosting. Joe, you were at day one today. Do you want to start us off with first impressions or getting into the
Yeah.
courtroom? Yeah, take it away.
Getting into the courtroom. So I got there about the same time as I did last time for jury selection, and the line was already forming.
Mhm.
And the person who was first in line said they were there at 5 a.m. And
Wow.
I'm like, I'll get there at 7:15 and be 12th. I'm okay with that. And actually, there was the public and the media were intermingled in that line. So half of those people in front of me were media. So they go into a different section when we go up there anyway. So not a big deal. Um, as of like an hour before the trial, there were still only like 25-ish public, but it did end up filling in like right at the end. A lot of people came in at the end, and all 45 public seats were taken.
Mhm.
Um, the interesting thing to me, and the thing that you're not going to see anywhere else, is that the jurors go in the same entrance as the public and the media. We all go
Okay.
in the same entrance, and they line up in a line next to us that's like 10 to maybe 12 feet over from us. And here
Mhm.
we are standing in line talking about this trial and talking about the case and talking about different things because, we're here to watch this trial. So eventually the public information officer for the court came out and said, "Hey guys, do you mind while the jury's lined up next to you, don't talk about the case. We don't want to have anything, untoward happen with the juror hearing something about the case they shouldn't." So it's just odd to me that they even bring them in the same entrance. Like there are plenty of entrances in that building. The
Right.
judge doesn't go in that entrance. You know
Right.
that. So
Right.
it's an odd way to handle it to me. In Delphi, they brought in Richard Allen and the jurors in through a side entrance, and they put up big black landscaping things on fences so you couldn't see them. And
Mhm.
then when some media members on first day did actually sneak some pictures, the judge confiscated their cameras and took their pictures out of their cameras. So there, even if Delphi, Indiana, if Carroll County, Indiana can figure it out, then surely Maricopa County can figure it out.
You would think so. That actually does surprise me. I thought for sure the jury would be coming in a different way from the public. Now, did the media did the media have a different entrance too? Because
No, they were with us.
yeah,
We were all intermingled in the same line. Then when you
okay,
get upstairs to the fifth floor, then you separate the public from the media. Then the
okay, that's
media
right.
gets numbers assigned, and the public gets numbers assigned. And I kind of took charge of the public side of it at first, just from my experience in Delphi, because people were just kind of wandering around, and if there wasn't some order taken, it was going to be a free for all
Mhm.
because the court security didn't care. He said, "You guys know what order you came in. You guys are just, you're all adults here. You can maintain that order." And that's not what was going to happen.
Yeah, no
That's
way.
not that's not what was going to happen. So
Yeah.
once we got up there and I was like sixth in line, I
Mhm.
said that there's a waiting area outside the courtroom, like 4 rows of 10 seats, so like 40 seats.
Mhm.
And the media were taking up the front 2 rows. So I said, "Okay, public, we're going to take up the back 2 rows. The person that
Mhm.
was number one in line, go and sit in that seat, and let's all fill in behind her, and then
Mhm.
fill in the row behind that."
Mhm.
And we did that. And then they came out, and once again, he is going to be like, "Oh, I don't think we need to give you numbers." But the public information officer said, "Yeah, we're going to take control of this situation. Everybody in the public's getting a number, and we're going to let you in the courtroom in that order." So
Okay.
That's what ended up happening. But I had to take a little bit of control of the situation at first to make sure that we had some type of order maintained.
Good. Somebody had to, and that's cool that you did, and nobody was a jerk to you. Everybody just kind of
No,
said,
actually, I was kind of a jerk to a couple of people. Well, they have morning court in there right next to us,
Mhm.
and we were getting pretty loud, until 10:30. So Lori doesn't start till 10:30. They have almost an hour and a half of court, at least an hour and 45 or an hour and 15 minutes of court before us. So we were
Okay.
getting loud, and the guy came out and said, "You guys are getting kind of loud." And then we started to get loud again, and I turned around and said, "Hey guys, this happened in Delphi, and we got kicked out. Judge Gold kicked us out.
Mhm.
So I'm going to be pretty grumpy if we get kicked out again. So do y'all
Yeah.
mind just keeping it down?"
Yep. Simmer down, children. Simmer down.
Right, exactly.
You're like
So
court. Are you court daddy now? Are they calling you court daddy?
I guess I am. I got a couple of dirty looks after that, but I'm okay. I'm okay with that.
Cool. So it starts at 10:30. There's a half hour delay, right? Um, tell
Yeah,
us like
almost 45 minutes. Like the jury
yeah.
didn't get seated till 10:15.
Tell us
I mean,
why. Yeah. Tell us why.
first of all, there was a juror that was late,
Mhm.
and I don't know how late that juror was. But then we also had. Did you guys see it streamed live? Why there was a delay? Did they air that
Yes.
on Court TV? Oh, okay. So
Oh
it
yeah.
was about part of it was about Brandon Boudreaux.
Yep. Yeah. We
So
saw that.
Brandon Boudreaux wanted to sit and watch the trial, and Lori objected to it and couldn't really come up with a good reason why not to. But the
Mhm.
judge went ahead and held a sidebar with her and Trina Kay, and then he took Brandon into his chambers and they had a little chat. And
Mhm.
apparently he was satisfied with the answers that Brandon gave him, and he let Brandon back in. And Brandon was actually seated one row in front of me and one row to the left. And I didn't know it was Brandon
Okay.
until he got to talk to the judge.
Oh, okay. So you were on the state side then, I'm assuming?
Yes,
You were on the
stateside,
state
second
side.
row. Yep.
Okay. Who's on Lori's side?
Um,
Do you recognize any?
I recognize one, and he's the guy that has done some research into the fundamental church of LDS and does a podcast with Adam Cox.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I cannot remember his name.
Okay.
But he was there, and the whole row was filled in, and I didn't recognize anybody else. I did recognize him, and I'm not sure necessarily they were there to support her, but I'm not sure they weren't. I don't know. I don't think he does.
Okay. But generally, I mean, people are sitting behind Lori. They're just not for her. They're not supporting her.
Right.
Because
Right. Not necessarily.
there's space. I mean, people want to sit.
Right.
People want to see it. They're just not supporting her. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. So my notes were juror number
Oh,
three
yeah.
employer had a problem with being in the trial, right? Not juror
Yes.
number three, but her employer well, first of all, was it a male or female? So we know.
It was a male.
Okay.
It was one of the male jurors.
Okay. So
and judge's question to him was, "Is this really your employer or is this you?" and he was like, so they did that. The judge questioned him off the record, right? They weren't recording that. They didn't record that part. So, and then the juror's like, "Well, it's my employer." And the judge is like, "Well, what if I give your employer a note that says that your jury duty is valuable?" And he's like, "Well, it's not just that; it's also an economic hardship." And the judge was like, "Why didn't you share that with us on your form and at jury selection?
Right.
Why are you just now bringing this up?"
Right.
So judge is like, "Let's have a sidebar." Or no, they didn't even go to sidebar. The judge just asked the state's opinion. The state said, "You know what? Just let him go." And does the defense have any opinion? Lori said, "No, I don't care." So they let him go. They let juror 3 go.
Wow. Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, we did not know that. All we knew that there was the employer had a problem. He didn't have a problem. We had no idea that they let him go.
Yeah, I suspect it might have been collusion on the part of juror 3 and his employer, both saying, "Yeah, let's see if we can write a letter to the judge and get you out of jury duty after you've already been selected."
Right? Yeah, like you said, went through the form, filled out the questionnaire, went through jury selection. Granted, they weren't there for a long time. They were only there for a day, so wasn't that big of a hardship, but still, yeah. What's the point of weeding people out if,
Yeah.
if you don't weed them out?
Right.
Oh, here, Trace has a good comment. He reminded him of the $300 a day, and he said that wasn't good enough.
Yeah, he said, "Well, that won't even pay my alimony and child support." And judge is like, that's not for alimony and child support. That's for your compensation for your lost income. It has nothing to do with alimony and child support.
Right. Interesting. All right. We got some starred comments. Anything? Let's see. Everybody's saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. All right. Cool. All right. So let's see. What do you want to go through your notes, or you just want to kind of? Were you able to take notes, or how did that work?
I took. Let's see. I think I took 10 pages of notes, if I count correctly.
Awesome.
Yeah, I took 10 pages of notes. But overall, like big picture wise, I thought Lori acquitted herself fairly decently. Like she probably did a little better than I thought she was going to do. She had some legal missteps, like we all knew she would.
Yeah.
But she was making fairly decent arguments. Even here's the bottom line. I don't know how much of it the jury is buying. Obviously, you and I know, and all of our communities know that we're not buying it for a second. But it's easy for us to sit back on this side of the keyboard, on this side of this, court TV screen, and judge her based on how we know her. But the jury supposedly doesn't know her like we do. So,
yeah. Just for comparison's sake, Maricopa County has like 4 million people, and Orange County, which is Orlando, which is where Sarah Boone, only has 1.4 million. So people were asking in our chat, how could you not have heard of this trial? I mean, that's like it's literally 4 times the size. So I can kind of understand that there are probably people that don't know, that have, or if they've heard of it, they're like, they don't know it as well as we do, obviously, or Sarah Boone. I mean, Sarah Boone was everywhere here in Florida.
Yeah.
We also took some polls, and we'll get to those. One of them was, how is Lori doing so far? So we'll get to those after you do give us a little bit of a recap, if you don't mind.
Okay. I just think it's interesting that Nathan Duncan is seated at the prosecution table. He was for jury selection too. He was the second lead investigator in Chandler on this case. The first lead investigator, I think it was Moffat, retired at some point and handed the case off to him. But he's here for all of this witness testimony. I don't know if he's on the witness list or not.
He is. Nathan Duncan, yeah, he's on the state side.
So he gets to be there to hear all. I see that. I had a problem with that in Delphi too. They let a couple of the law enforcement officers that were on the witness list be in the courtroom for the trial. So there's the Brandon Boudreaux stuff. So Trina starts off her opening for the state talking about some Mormon things like Nephi. She reads that text where I think it was Adam or Lori, I don't remember which one it was, said, I'm going to be like Nephi. And as a Mormon who's spent a whole year of high school studying the Book of Mormon, I'm familiar with that story. And I won't bore you all too much with it, but it comes out of the Book of Mormon, and it is about a righteous killing of somebody who was a wicked person.
Okay.
And Nephi is one of the main characters in the Book of Mormon. So he's the one that does the killing. I think he chopped off the head of a guy named Laban.
Okay.
And so that's kind of like code for righteous killing, right? We're going to do this righteous killing thing.
Absolutely.
Sorry, trying to catch up with chat just a little bit because I had to switch the streams a little bit, and I'm trying to, because I can't tell in StreamYard which ones are your comments and which ones are my comments. So I almost have to be watching my YouTube channel for my comments.
Sorry about that. Let's see.
No, it's okay. I can stay over here.
Yeah, if there's any
YouTube channel.
Any you want me to pull up?
All right. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for popping in the channel and the chat.
Star Hunter is saying good evening to you.
Star Hunter. Hey, buddy. I know Star Hunter well from YouTube channels anyway.
Nice.
We frequent a couple of the same channels.
Butterfly 71. Said you made it. Thought Lori turned you in blue for a second.
Oh man, wait till I get to that. I thought we were being portaled out of there at one point. Did you guys catch that funky electronic noise thing that happened?
Oh yeah, I took screenshots of this. Was it Krautheim? I think it was Krautheim, and he was like looking all around. I got some good screenshots of him.
Yeah, that was crazy, but I think we figured out what it was when we
Okay.
went on a break. Judge got to the bottom of it.
We thought somebody was trolling the Zoom, right? Because then, like before that,
Yeah,
like somebody came in on Zoom, right? Or something happened with the Zoom.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there were all kinds of electronic noises from the court computer throughout the whole thing, like bloop, 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 bloop.
Yeah. I heard that too. All right. The main question, and I don't want to answer this yet because I want to get to it in time. But the chocolate milkshakes, we'll get to that because everybody was like, "What the heck?" So let's get to that in time, right? Let's go through the time.
Okay.
Because a lot happened before that and a lot happened after. But that was like the main. If there was one main thing, I'd say that was probably one, if not the main thing. So we'll get to that though.
Yeah, I don't think that Trina did a good enough job explaining the Nephi thing. Like I just did. She could have like gone into it just as much as I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think any jurors that are not LDS are not going to understand that reference. Be like Nephi.
My notes, I literally have. Well, Lori, Chad, Alex thought everyone was dark or zombies or Z's. They had a name, Zed. They talked about the brass plates and the story of Nephi. Lori invoked Nephi to give Alex religious authority to kill, and then that was it. That's all I have too. So
Yeah.
there was not a lot.
No, there was not. Then she starts going kind of in chronological order, but then she kind of backs up and goes back into her chronological order later, talking about the preparing the people seminars with Chad Daybell, and all of a sudden in January of 2019, people start getting possessed by evil spirits. And then they went to March of 2019 girls meeting, where, and I didn't write down the girl's name that said that she overheard Adam talking about he needed to kill Alex.
I have Serena Sharp. Was that?
Yes, that's
was that
it.
her?
That's
okay.
Because
Because she mentioned a couple people, but Serena Sharp was the one that jumped out at me. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And then there's some kind of a text message between Lori and Alex where Alex says he's still here, and she goes, "No, it's a different one. Ned's gone." Which once again is still kind of cryptic and isn't explaining a whole lot. Maybe she'll get more into it when they start showing those text messages and explain that to the jury. But I think some of this the jury might have been a little bit lost on. Alex wanted to kill Charles. Then February 26th of 2019, Charles changed the beneficiary of his life insurance policy, right? And he didn't tell Lori.
Right.
I honestly think that was a mistake.
Not telling her or changing it?
No, not telling her.
Yeah.
Because if that is motive for murder, then eliminate that motive, and maybe she'll just go ahead and get divorced and move on. Maybe.
Doubtful, but yeah, maybe.
Then on June 28th of 2019, so that would have been, June is 30 days long, 2 and 11, 13. That would have been almost exactly 2 weeks before he was killed. Charles discovers the affair. He emails Tammy. There are doubts of whether or not she actually read that, or if Chad was in control of her computer and read that email.
Right.
And this is something I didn't know. He also contacted Adam Cox's wife and told her about it. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that one either. I don't have that in my notes, so I missed that part. So good.
Yeah, it was brief. Then July 10th, so it all starts to go down when Charles comes from Texas into Chandler to visit with JJ. And he flies Adam in because he wants support. They're going to confront Lori or have an intervention of sorts. At the same time, Charles is also dating somebody off of the LDS dating app, which is
That's the first time I've heard of that. Had you heard of this person before? We can say her name, right? Because she's on the witness
Yeah.
list.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you want to go ahead? Excuse
I
me.
don't have her name written down. It's something Joe,
Yeah, Nancy Joe.
Nancy Joe. Yeah. So I knew about the date. I think Kresha and I talked about it on one of our lives because I was asking her about all of these witnesses on the witness list, and she said, "Yeah, that's the gal that Charles was dating
Mm-hmm.
off of
She's
the
on
LDS dating site."
she's on the state witness list, and her name is Nancy Joe Hancock. So, but
So
today they were just saying Nancy Joe.
right,
Yeah.
and hey, Beach Bum, good to see you.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Beach Bum coming in.
So Charles flies in Adam, but he doesn't pick up Adam, and Adam doesn't come join him at the house.
Mm-hmm.
But he texts Adam, and he says, when he gets to the house, and he says, Al is here. So Alex is here.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam says, well, that's interesting. He didn't tell me he was going to be there. They're planning something.
All right.
It was a little bit prophetic.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear from Adam.
Yeah. Yeah, he has stopped his podcast until after he testifies. He doesn't want to get in any trouble.
Yeah, smart move.
I can't remember on that. So Adam says to him, "What you do is up to you." They're planning something. What you do is up to you. So that wasn't part of the intervention thing. The intervention, they were going to try and do it through the church leader, which they were going to go play basketball that night at the stake center. The church leader was going to be there playing basketball with them. They were going to talk to him then about the intervention.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a little bit late at that point. So then she goes into how Lori took Charles's phone and played keep away with it, wouldn't give it back to him. And she sent JJ out to the car, but not Tylee.
Right.
Or no, he sent JJ out to the car. He was just going to go back in, and Lori said on her opening statement, he left a 7-year-old boy in the vehicle with the car running.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you give him his phone, he's not out there in the vehicle by himself for very long, is he?
Right. Yeah. She said that multiple times. Trying to basically intimate that Charles is a terrible father. How dare you leave a 7-year-old child who is diagnosed with severe autism alone in a car that's running? I thought that was some real victim shaming there. I think she said at least twice, if not 3 times. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So then the state's opening just skips out any part of any kind of a physical confrontation in the house, which is obviously Lori's argument when she gets up there and stand. The state then says Alex shot Charles twice, once while he was standing, and according to the trajectory, once while he was laying down.
Yeah, now I thought this was really interesting. We can get into this a little bit deeper if you want down the road, if you want to continue on with your
No, we can talk about it now. I'm good with that.
Because I didn't realize, I thought there was like 4 shots. I didn't know how many times Charles had gotten actually shot. So this was the first time I heard twice. Bullets, first one, it's only a trajectory of like an inch. So it's front to back and an inch elevation. So a lot of people were saying, how tall is Charles? I'm guessing 6'2" or 6'3". And Alex is maybe 5'10". Am I close in that estimation or no?
It seems about right. It seems about right to me.
Yeah.
But it was actually a slightly downward trajectory by an inch.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Did I say up? I meant down. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So we're trying to figure out, okay, so if you're holding the gun like this, wouldn't it be a slight upward? And I said, well, maybe Alex, had raised his gun a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
It's
not like, he was shooting from the hip. He could have could have done one of these, gangster style.
Done the game, right? Exactly. Yeah,
because it could have been one of those. But then the thing is, then for sure, the next one was, I think, a 15-inch
13.
13. Yeah, I mean, that's,
Yeah,
he literally
and
stood in front of, like, at his feet and shot him from, I mean,
yeah,
just a bastard,
yeah, yep.
And that one went in his abdomen. I think it went out. I have the notes, but I think it went out his
Shoulder,
back.
his back shoulder.
Yeah. So through his,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, just terrible. So yeah, we were kind of discussing like how how tall were they? Why was it not the angle up? But I think it could be explained away pretty easily. And it went through his heart, right? I think the first one went through his
Yep.
heart, went out his back, and then that embedded in the baseboard. But then the other one, since he was laying down, it's indicative of, like, I think the wound, they said it's a different wound when the bullet came
Yeah,
out.
she
It's
said it's a
indicative.
short. She said it was a shored wound, which
Yeah.
means there was a hard object right behind the exit area.
Now is that Shore, 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 or what?
I
What's
think
that?
so. Shored, SHORED.
Oh, ED. Okay,
So
yeah. Because I heard her say it, I wasn't quite sure what that was.
I think that's what it is. But
See, now it makes sense that when the landlord was talking to detectives, he asked why the floorboard was replaced. And I thought it was because of the blood, but it must have been replaced because law enforcement took those floorboards.
right.
Did you catch that?
I no, I didn't.
Yeah, yeah. The landlord was talking to some detectives, and he came in afterwards trying to sell. And he's like, "I guess Lori replaced the floorboards or something, or he had to. I forget which." And it was because the detectives, law enforcement, took the floorboards. And I was like, "Oh, maybe just because there was so much blood." But no, now it makes sense that they took it, and maybe that's evidence. Maybe we'll see that because it just shows that it wasn't embedded. I think the projectile was next to Charles, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it was laying there on the floor. Yep,
Yeah,
next
yeah.
to him. So the, that that completely decimates her self-defense argument, and she has listed self-defense as one of her defense arguments that she plans to argue. So if you have already shot somebody through the heart and they're
Mhm.
laying flat on the ground, you do not need to shoot them a second time for your
Nope.
self-defense.
Nope. Same as shooting in the back. You don't need to shoot somebody who's running away from you, unless they're
Right.
running at you from coming at you.
Right. They're a backward sprinter.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that alone. I mean, there's going to be so much that's going to sink her, but that for sure is going to sink her. So,
Yeah.
um,
At least the self-defense argument is gone.
yep. Exactly. Um, USA Libertarian. Charles was shot while on the ground. Yep. The second shot, he was shot twice. First shot, he was shot in the heart, goes out his back. Second shot, through the abdomen, exits through his left shoulder. So he basically was laying like this, and yeah, the angle was like that through his, yeah. So um, Alex came right up to him at his feet and shot him.
Yep.
That's a cold-blooded assassin there,
It is. It is. It's disturbing.
Yeah. This is a
And
great. I'm sorry. Let me just. U.S.
yeah,
Libertarian. How was it not investigated as murder to begin with? That's a great question. A lot of people were asking how come it took so long to come to trial, which we kind of know. But why was Alex? Do you know? Like, why was Alex just not even arrested? He was taken in for questioning, and that was it.
because Chandler PD sucks.
Oh, really? Wow.
Well, the interview that we saw a couple of days ago from one of the detectives,
Mhm.
his excuse was it wasn't a high profile case and we just didn't dig into it that deep at the beginning of it, which is a really, really lame excuse.
Yeah.
Because what if they had investigated it as a murder and charged Alex and Lori then before they ever moved up to Rexford?
Yep.
I mean, that has to weigh on their conscience.
Yeah.
That has to.
Yeah.
I was 3 seats down from a guy that has lived out here in Gilbert for 10 years, and that's his opinion of the police department. So I'm not just saying that off of my own feelings. That's
Sure.
been confirmed by a local citizen here. There's another case that's called Preston Lord and the Gilbert Goons. This guy was actually wearing a Justice for Preston wristband today And he said he had an experience with those Gilbert goons. Like the Gilbert PD just lets them run amok and doesn't really prosecute them like they should be.
Wow. That's too bad. Well, hopefully this will there will be some justice for Charles.
Yeah.
Better
This was
never.
a tough day for the family because they got to see some pretty graphic evidence presented in court. So actually some of the people in the gallery had a hard time with some of it too.
Yeah.
Hopefully that had an impact on the jury as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Autopsy photos are never pleasant. That's for sure.
Well, we haven't seen that yet. All we saw was the body cam video and some still images from that body worn camera of the first two responding officers. They show Charles laying there on the floor with no censorship, no blacking or blurring of anything, just straight up raw video.
Yeah.
So then the state talks about how Lori left to go to Burger King and Walgreens and drop JJ off. And was gone for a significant period of time. And during that time, there were 2 to 3 phone calls between her and Alex. While Alex was waiting 47 minutes to call 911.
Yep.
So what was that call? Is he still breathing? Is he still breathing? Is he still alive? Should I come back yet? Should I wait another 15 minutes before I come back? If Tylee were still around, maybe she could tell us how those conversations went.
Yep. It's just unbelievable. the path of destruction that she left in her wake, unbelievable.
It is. And then the state, Trina talks about how Charles was left-handed, but the bat was placed by his right hand. And I'm going to, spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you what Lori said on her opening, which you guys have already seen. She said, yes, Charles was a left-handed pitcher, but he batted right-handed. And that's me. I'm left-handed. I throw, catch, everything left-handed, but I bat right-handed and I golf right-handed.
Okay.
So
you can identify with that.
Yeah, I can identify with it. And I've actually brought up that theory on a live with Salty once, I think a few weeks ago or several weeks ago.
Okay.
That's a possibility that he could have hit him on the right side of his head from behind, but the amount of damage to the back of his head by a semi-pro professional baseball player with an aluminum bat doesn't jive. We all know that.
No. He would have been concussed. He would have been dizzy. He would have been knocked out. He would have been bleeding. I mean, there's so many things that would have happened that did not, obviously. So.
And Ms. K talks about that next. She talks about how this gun, after he gets hit on the back of the head, and what's your first reaction when you get hit almost anywhere? Is to put your hand on it right away, like, ow, like how much is it bleeding? You pull your hand away, you look at the blood, then you go pick up a gun, there's going to be blood on the gun. There was no blood transfer on the gun.
Right.
None at all. There were no blood droplets in the hallway between where he shot him or where he supposedly got hit in the head and picked up his gun. There's no evidence that story is true. But Lori, when she does her thing, says the evidence will show, the evidence will show, the evidence will show.
Yeah, she went from Speedy Trial Daybell to the evidence will show. That's her new nickname. That was it. The evidence will show. TEWS. The evidence will show. Twos. That's the new. That's the new nickname for this. Okay, this is a great question. Krista says maybe the prosecution can bring a rebuttal witness to confirm or deny that he batted left-handed, because Lori said in high school, college, and then AAA, he was a southpaw, but he batted right-handed. You can ask his coach, right?
Well, is she going to bring his coach in?
Is she going to bring his coach in? Yeah, that's interesting. So that's a good point, Krista. Maybe they will bring in the rebuttal.
Well, she has to present it as evidence first. I mean, she said the evidence will show, but if she never presents that as evidence in court, I mean, at this point, it's hearsay. It's her saying it on behalf of herself. Like, we'll get to that in a second because she's about to do her opening.
Right. Okay, we're jumping ahead. Yeah. Calm down, Chris. Calm down.
No, me too. Like that's one of the fascinating. And the sunglasses were still on his head when he came out of the house. Supposedly, they had this major physical altercation and got whacked in the back of the head, and his sunglasses are still on the top of his head.
Now, personally, I don't have a problem with that because what's to say that he didn't put them on after he did everything? Like he did the CPR, they got in the fight, and then I mean, it's odd. I'm again, it's a weird thing, but that one I didn't find so like, oh,
that doesn't rise to the level of proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah,
in my mind.
yeah.
And then she talks about the. Go ahead.
You got a shout out from Lisa. Joe, you're my
Oh,
hero.
Lisa, hey. I saw your message on Twitter. I'll get back to you on that. But thanks for joining us and participating in all of your comments. I appreciate all of them. Thanks, Lisa. Thank you
Miss
for
Shorty
that.
also saying hello, waving. Thank you for joining us.
Miss Shorty, Nan's here. Hi, Nan.
You know what I just figured out? You see in StreamYard, you see where the link is? I think that's from is that from your stream? Yeah. So, okay. So like for Baka, see there's in StreamYard, see there's a link next to her name in StreamYard. That's from you. That's from, at least that's what I'm seeing. Maybe you're seeing the opposite. You might be seeing the opposite.
Okay. Yes. Right. I'm recognizing like Pammy has the little link thing next to hers. So is she in yours or mine?
Yeah, she would be. Okay, so Pammy's in Trial TV Live. So when you see the link, that means it's in the other channel. So when I see the link so if you see something, you want me to pull it up, just give a holler.
Gotcha.
But that kind of lets you know who's in your chat versus the other
Gotcha,
chat.
that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. All right, we're figuring this out. All right, cool. All right.
One baby step at a time.
Exactly.
Okay, so then she talks about the trajectory. The first one was basically level, an inch downward, 13 inches upward for the second one, the shored wound. There was a defect in the flooring where it struck, where that bullet struck the flooring. Then she talks about a staged murder scene because of where the bat was, type of thing. And then when Lori showed up, the police originally didn't know or thought that Lori didn't know about it. Like she was showing up from out of nowhere. But we'll find out when the witnesses testify, she didn't ask what's going on, where are there cop cars, police cars, ambulances? Why is my brother sitting on the curb holding the back of his head? Is he all right? Didn't ask any of that.
Right.
She shows up and does that flirty little, hey, neighbor.
Yeah.
That is just totally odd. Totally odd. And
just
then
want to recognize Miss Shorty, $7.99 there for some coffee for you tomorrow.
Miss Shorty, thank you. Thank you. I will need some coffee in the morning, I guarantee. Thank you so much, Miss Shorty. I appreciate that. All right. So then we get into she and Tylee got taken down to Chandler Police Department, separated and interviewed. She admitted in her interview that she took Charles' phone and would not give it back. Yep. So that's actually Trina spun that as, which isn't necessarily inaccurate. When I say the word spun, I mean spun it as she provided reason to keep Charles in that house or bring him back into that house. And when she did her police, I don't know if it was this interview or a later interview. It might have been this actual interview where she said, "Oh, he's always leaving stuff behind to have a reason to come back into the house." You know, she put that on him when it was her that did that. Well,
Trial TV Live. Thank you so much, Joe, for all your hard work. 50 big ones dropping on Joe.
Wow. That is so generous.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I really do. You
do a lot of hard work, Joe. So this is much what can I say? Much I'm not sure what the word is. You deserve it. Much deserved. That's what it is.
Thank
much
you.
Deserved.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Does
that mean I'm a professional now?
Well, if you make over $600, you're going to have to
report it.
Record it. Yes, report it. But they didn't hear it from me. Joe didn't make over $600. Don't worry about it. All right. So yeah, okay, yeah. Still didn't give the phone back. I takes phone, goes into the kitchen. Is that where we left off? Pretty much.
Well, she's at her police department interviews right now. So this is
Okay.
testimony that came from out of her mouth
Right.
at the police department in the interview room. She claimed to the police department that Tylee came out with a bat. Charles took it and knocked Tylee down. So she's just repeating what Lori told the police officers at the time,
Right.
which is interesting because this is Trina that's saying this. That's almost in Lori's benefit right there, because this is something that Lori was trying to get entered into testimony later with one of the witnesses and
Mm-hmm.
kept getting objection hearsay and sustained over and over and over again.
Right.
So then later on, they leave and they come back. I don't remember if it was later that night or if it was the next day. And magically, she has Charles' phone. She
Mm-hmm.
hands the phone over and says she found it in her car
Mm-hmm.
or his car. She
Mm-hmm.
magically found his phone and she knew his PIN.
Yep.
So what we found out is that she and Alex took it down to his house in Santan and went through it and was going through his phone in details, taking pictures of text messages and stuff.
Hmm.
And then Lori didn't call anybody or tell anybody till a day or two later. She called Charles's son
Mm-hmm.
or sons and said, "Your dad is dead."
Yeah, that's
That's it.
cold. That's
Yeah.
so cold. Yep. She didn't tell Adam. She didn't tell Charles's family. That's just and then I have son. She texted the son the next day, and then the son had to tell Kay, who was
Right.
Charles's sister.
Right.
That his aunt. Yeah, that's some cold-hearted stuff going on there.
That is.
Yep. Oh, and then Kay had to Google it. I have that in my notes too.
Right. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kay and Charles had to Google it.
Ugh. I can't even imagine. Yeah.
And then they get into the life insurance policy. We know about the phone call with the life insurance company, where they say, "We'll check it out and we'll get back to you." They get her email. They say, "We'll email you with the results of this." But she told the life insurance person it was an accidental death.
Mm-hmm.
And this person was so sympathetic. She's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "You liar. Liar, pants on fire." Why would you lie? Why would you lie about that?
Yeah.
To the insurance company? Because they're going to find out. They're going to get police records. They're going to get coroner's reports. They're going to get toxicology reports. They're going to get all that stuff, especially cause and manner of death. They're going to be very interested in that.
I don't know why she thought she could get away with that. I don't get that. Beach Bum says she's not bright.
She's good at pretending to be bright. Like, I mean, she was fairly lucid and well spoken in court today, fairly respectful. I mean, she just made a couple of legal errors. Well, more than a couple, but I mean, when I say just, I mean, so the point I was making earlier, I don't know if I finished making it, but maybe I did. So I'll reemphasize it if I did.
Please.
It's easy on our side of the keyboard looking in to the thing, knowing our history of her, to judge her. And lots of people were judging her today, who were watching the trial on their computers. But the jury, I honestly did not see that type of reactions. Like the people that were in Salty's chat, if they were in court TV with me today, they'd get us all kicked out because they'd be sitting there yelling at Lori, "Stop lying."
Right. Wow.
But
well, thank God that they weren't, and then you didn't get kicked out.
Right.
So, we're glad.
Thank God I can stay composed. I can stay calm and composed.
Right. Sherry gave a super sticker. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Sherry. Thanks for joining us too. Watching, commenting, liking. Don't forget to like. Oh yeah. So after she found out, a couple days later, an insurance company emails her, says, "You're not the beneficiary, and we're not going to tell you who is." We all know now that it was Kay. She texted Chad. He changed it in March. It must have been Ned before we got rid of him.
Yeah. That's pretty damning. Pretty damning
It,
stuff.
it, it is. Is it proof of conspiracy? That text there, I don't think is proof of conspiracy. It is proof of motive,
Yeah.
and you don't actually have to prove motive or intent to get a conviction.
Mm-hmm. Well, how else would you? It was probably Ned, and we took care of him. You have, and what did you say? What was your notes?
It was probably Ned before we got rid of him.
We got rid of him. Yeah. I mean, we took care of him. We got rid of him.
Well, but she claimed to have exorcised Ned from his body, and she wasn't referring to getting
Mhm.
rid of Charles.
So it was more,
It
more
was
esoterical.
exorcising that evil spirit from his body. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And then they went through his laptop. She went all the way through his laptop in detail. She found that beneficiary change form.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had that little discussion at the break, right before lunch break, with juror 3 being released from his duty. That was it before lunch.
Oh yeah, I have juror number 3 stay behind. So that's when the release happened.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it was 45 minutes long. I kept track because watching Monica Cementili, it took them like 4 days. It took like Beth like 10 hours, Beth Silverman, to go through her closing. So this opening was only 45 minutes. How did that compare to other openings that you've experienced?
The only other one that can compare is Nick McClellan in Delphi. And I honestly don't remember how long his went. He was way more dramatic though. Like, they didn't have microphones, they didn't stand at a podium. He got up in front of the defense desk and he paced back and forth in front of that defense desk, and he pointed his pointy little finger at stuff, and he talked about nexuses and all kinds of other things. And no, the nexus was the August 1st hearing. Never mind. But anyway, Nick McClellan was way more dramatic than Trina K is. I don't remember the length of his opening though.
Gotcha. We got a raid, publicly buzzed, giving us a raid. Awesome. Thank you guys. Pokemon,
Buzz Nation.
Pokemon, and yeah, Carlo, Ohio. Awesome. Here, this is a great one. Tayo Toys. Joe, can you slip a note to Lori for me?
I'll get a Miss Shorty notebook. It's got a little pocket in the back, and I'll slip the little note in the pocket in the back of that, and then slide it across the floor to her.
For Sarah Boone, it was her birthday over the course of the trial, and we'd gotten her birthday card, and I wanted Jules to give it to her somehow, and she's like, no, I can't. I'm gonna. So she that didn't go anywhere, unfortunately. So you have to carry on the tradition. Try and get something to.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that'll go well. They'll put a rack belt on me.
Right on. Okay, so that ends. So then they broke for lunch, right?
Yes.
And how was lunch?
Did you? It was a nice hour and a half.
Yeah. Did you go out with anybody that you?
No, there wasn't enough time for that, really. I mean,
okay.
You could theoretically get in your car and drive somewhere, and if there was a short enough line, but it's a whole lot of hassle for me. They have a cafe down in the first floor, so that's convenient enough that I'll probably eat there most days.
Gotcha. Are there any restaurants like within a block or two? I mean, I'm assuming it's downtown.
A block or two? I don't think so.
No.
I'll have to research that because it's mostly a lot of high rises, but obviously, restaurants can go like in the bottom floor of a high rise. So I do need to research that a little bit because I will get tired of the cafe probably in about a week.
Yeah. I mean, even if there's like there was a pizza joint Italian restaurant, again with Sarah Boone, because that's the first one I went to, and, go have a slice of pizza, have some spaghetti or whatever, and it fills you up for the afternoon as well. Genjo, did the jurors show any reactions to specific things or a specific time? Great question.
I did not see any overreactions from the jurors. I did see a couple of them kind of getting bored and disinterested when Trina was presenting the second body cam video from the second responding officer.
Okay.
Krautheim.
Krautheim, yeah.
So she played that without audio, and she played several minutes of without audio, of it without audio. And
Mhm.
there were parts in there where she would ask him questions and he would respond. And so, you're paying attention to that, but there would also be stretches of that
Right.
where it's just this quiet video just rolling. It's not
Mhm.
that interesting. There's not
Mhm.
a whole lot going on in it. And a couple of the jurors, I looked over, and one was kind of sitting like this, and another one was kind of doing this. And
Right.
they're
And
getting bored.
it's only day one. Come on, people. They're getting bored
Right.
already. Witness number 2, and they're already getting bored.
Yes. Yes, they were. Not all of them. I mean,
Yeah.
that I don't want that to sound like a blanket statement. There were definitely a handful of jurors that were paying attention the whole time, taking notes, listening to the witnesses, listening to you know, to the attorneys and the questions and the answers. So,
Mhm.
there are a handful of them that I really, really like that are like, that'd be me up there. That's how I would be. Well, that's how I was in the gallery, taking notes, listening, paying attention.
Now, therapist, is jumping ahead. We'll read the question, but did the judge read the juror question? There was a jury question.
You are jumping ahead, and I have
Well,
an answer for you, but you're going to have to wait.
yes, we'll hold off on that. Oh, wait here. Miss Shorty says, Joe, I'm going to send you 2 more notebooks. You're going to need them.
Uh,
All right. So we'll
don't
get,
make don't don't
yep.
make me try and sneak him to Lori though.
All right. All right. We'll get therapist, we will get to that because I want to know that as well. All right. So we come out of lunch and then it's Miss Daybell Esquire. It's her turn. So she was shorter. She was only 16 minutes. So
Yeah.
what tell us about that?
So she gets into the definition of conspiracy. Takes
Mm-hmm.
two or more people acting together, planning together,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then she wants to defend the motive of the life insurance of there being a $2 million life insurance policy on her and a $1 million life insurance policy on Charles, just by saying, "Hey, he's an insurance salesman. He's a life insurance salesman. He has always bought the max life insurance for both of us."
Mm-hmm.
So it may sound like a lot, and I'm putting words in her mouth, but Ms. K over there made it sound like that's really good motive for murder, but that's just always been the way it has. We've
Right.
always just had maximum life insurance policy, and that's a fairly decent argument for taking a little stab at that motive.
Sure.
And then she talks about he pitched left, but he batted right-handed.
Mm-hmm.
And then Summer saw threatening text messages. So Summer is her sister, and she is on her defense witness list. And
Yeah.
she claims that Summer saw threatening text messages from Charles.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't really get into that, what exactly those threats were, at least not that I can remember. Do you have anything in your notes about those?
I actually have a little bit before that. Let me just before we get to that. Um, Tylee was 3 years old when they got married. Tylee and Charles had to see a therapist because the relationship got so terrible.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, Tylee's bio dad had a heart attack. Then there was an objection for hearsay. Then here's this I didn't know. Charles and Tylee, the fighting got worse and increased to physical. So February and March, apparently, she said March it was captured on video. Did you catch that?
Say that one more time.
Okay, so um, Lori said that Charles and Tylee had to see a therapist because the relationship got so terrible. And then in 2018 and 2019, apparently she said February and March, and it got so bad. March, it was captured on video, this altercation between Tylee and Charles. And
Wow,
then,
I really missed that.
yeah, Charles pulled JJ out of school, moved to Texas. JJ was diagnosed with severe autism when he was 3, had to move back from Texas to Arizona on behalf of JJ. Colby, Cole, and Zach were not living at home anymore. And then here, Charles started sending hostile messages, and Summer was concerned. So, do you know anything about a video? Excuse
I
me.
don't. I
Yeah,
don't.
is she just talking smack, or is she going to actually bring some receipts?
That's a good question. That I have that question about every single one of her things where she said the evidence will show.
Yeah. Oh
Like
my God.
what evidence do you really have, lady? Because
Yeah.
every single person in that house except for you on that day is now deceased.
Yeah.
JJ's deceased, Tylee's deceased, Charles is deceased, Alex is deceased. You're
Yep.
the only one, lady. So the only evidence that you can bring in the show is your own testimony.
Yep. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Nobody can refute it. Just her word and her word alone.
Isn't that convenient?
Yes.
I got
you
that
know,
reference.
you know where I was going.
Yep. I must have been like tweeting like during that part of the testimony.
Yeah, it happens.
Because I tweeted the longest thread I have ever tweeted in my life today.
Oh, I must have missed that. I'll look at it when we hang up.
I tried to give regular updates on the key points, and it ended up just being like a storybook.
Yeah.
um,
Well, we got your back.
I appreciate that. Two sets of eyes are always better than one.
Absolutely.
And then she starts talking about that day, July 11th, 2019. And she starts crying when she says, Tylee came out of her room with a bat to protect her from Charles.
Right.
And that's a Mormon woman thing. So they have something in the LDS church that's called Fast and Testimony Meeting, and that's once a month. I think it's the first Sunday of every month. And people will get up, and there's no like set sermon, if you want to call it that, or a talk or whatever, that people will get up and what's called bearing their testimonies about how they know the church is true, that Joseph Smith was a prophet of God, and some people will like tell a little story that's like, kind of symbolic of their faith in the church and all the teachings of the church. And most of the time, women that do that, when they're telling their story, they will cry, just like Lori was crying today. Like I recognized that like immediately. It's like, boom, took me back to Fast and Testimony Meeting 1986.
Wow.
Boom. Yeah. So a lot of people wouldn't necessarily recognize that, but I recognize that like she can turn the waterworks on. And she did. She did.
And you think it was genuine? You think that was genuine, or was she just
no?
No, I mean, could she genuinely produce tears?
Oh yeah. Right. No,
can.
Absolutely, okay. Yeah.
But the emotion behind it was not
right.
Genuine.
The sentiment behind it. She worked up the emotion inside of herself for that. But the sentiment behind it, like that. Like, did Tylee really come out of the room with a baseball bat to protect her from Charles? I have my doubts.
Yeah, I hear
you. And that's when I say in my notes, she's using evidence will show basically to tell her story about what happened that day. The evidence will show that Tylee came out of her room to protect me. The evidence will show that Charles grabbed the bat and knocked Tylee to the ground. The evidence will show that Alex came out of the room putting his pants on. And the evidence will show that they got into a fight and wrestled each other to the ground. Like, how will the evidence show that?
Yeah.
How will the evidence show that? There is no evidence to show that.
There's no proof of that. Absolutely. Yep. No. Yep. Because everybody's gone. There's nobody that can back that up. Everybody's gone. It's just her word.
What we have is evidence of a body on the ground with 2 bullets in it. And Alex admitting he pulled the trigger. Yep. Right. And so, yeah, hers ends at 13:47. So 1:47. So, yeah, just 16 minutes. Did you have anything else in your notes before we move on to state's witnesses?
I had a lot more, but is it that she didn't have shoes? Tylee and Lori didn't have shoes when they went outside.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's why she had to stop off at the Walgreens. I thought that was interesting because I hadn't heard that before.
No, I heard she stopped at the Walgreens for flip-flops because there was going to be a pool party that night.
Oh, she said stopped at Walgreens to get flip-flops to walk on hot pavement because they were forced to leave so quickly and abruptly, so they didn't have shoes. So she had to stop to get flip-flops to drop off.
That's a new story. That's a new story. I hadn't heard that. I heard it was about the pool party thing, but I mean, that's a plausible argument. That's a plausible theory.
Yeah. Oh, here's another victim jab at Charles. She drove the kids through Burger King drive-through that Charles had promised JJ. Like, she had these little digs, She kept having these little digs at him, which I didn't appreciate. Oh, there we go. Forrest. Thank you for the super sticker.
Nice, Forrest.
Let's see. Put in the police van, attended the. All three returned back home as instructed. She did everything that law enforcement asked her to do. Oh, detective asked if they had Charles's cell. Tylee retrieves the phone from the car or the rental car at 3:19. She knew exactly when Tylee retrieved the phone, Charles's
Hmm,
phone. So that's when we first hear that they had the phone, right? We didn't hear that they had the phone up until then.
right.
Uh, Alex passed away 5 months to the day because of blood clot in his lung. I'm the only person being charged with this crime. Of course, that was objected to. And money and Social Security was my motive. That's what the state's saying. Collecting that is not a crime. Self-defense is not a crime. A family tragedy is not a crime. And then she says thank you, and then she's done.
Right.
So
True, true, true. But
yeah,
all the things before that, not true, not true, not true.
yeah,
The
yeah.
evidence will show. I'm dying to see all of this evidence.
Me
She
too.
said she had to said that what 20 times at least 20 25 times.
Easily. How is she going to prove that Alex came out of the bedroom pulling up his pants or whatever without a shirt on? Like you said, how is she going to prove that? How is she going to prove that Charles came at her and then Tylee comes out with a bat? How is she going to prove that? Do they have the bat? Is the bat in evidence? Finger.
That's a good question because the police did see the bat. Surely they would have collected it. It was laying right next to the body.
Yeah.
Surely they would have collected that, tested it for fingerprints, tested it for DNA, right?
Yeah. I
They
would
would
think
have.
so. Yeah. Well, if they were doing their job, well, we'll see. All right. See if there's any let's see any questions that we can pull up while we're taking this little break. What happened with juror number 15 and their phone?
Oh, we're going to get to that in a minute.
We got
We're going to
to
get to that in a minute.
okay, that's still to come.
Yep.
Hold that thought. Oh, this might be a good one. Okay, because we're getting to the first witness, which was Irwin. Where's Bicky? Where's Bicky?
I, part of the problem when they have the witnesses come over and get sworn in, it's all the way in the far corner of the court, and there's
Yeah,
no microphone, and I can't hear them spell their names, and so I
yeah.
just write a big blank. I'm like, I don't know who this is.
You know what? You know what? I agree with you. I can't hear it either. And then they'll say, "Introduce yourself to the jury," and they'll be like, "Hi, I'm blah," but I'm going off of the witness list. That's how I'm getting the
Right,
spellings of
right,
their names.
and
So
that's how as soon as that second guy got up there, I'm like, I need to bring a witness list in with me so I know
yeah,
who this is. Yeah,
yep. So okay, so he's the first witness. So Lisa Shelton. Did you
did
see
you see?
Lori's side? Go ahead. Yeah.
I did. No, I did. Did you see the Lori side eye, the prosecution? I did not. She's always giving them side eye, like always. It's like Trina. Trina is her foe right now, her arch enemy.
Yeah.
They're
All right.
not frenemies.
They're not frenemies. This is a good question from La Mesa Filipino Food Club. I feel like I totally heard Barry Cox influence coming through loud and proud today. Anybody else? Oh my.
I don't know enough about Barry Cox. I mean, I've obviously heard a lot from Megan, um, but I don't know enough about him to say that. But based on what I've heard, yeah, that definitely is a possibility. And if you're more familiar with him, La Mesa Filipino Food Club, like I know you are, then you probably got that a little stronger than I did. So that's her dad. Um,
Barry, yeah.
he has actually spent time in prison for tax evasion.
Mhm.
But he's the one that ran that household that had just such weird vibes to it. You know, when Megan Connor would go over there and spend summers over there, you know, she came on my channel and told me some stories that are like, whoa.
Wow.
But they were Southern California Mormons, so they played by their own rules.
Hmm.
They're a little more maverick out there.
Interesting.
But no, I don't think that quite that maverick in most Mormon households.
Wow.
Like, have you heard the story about Alex bouncing Lori on his lap?
No, no.
Yeah,
Do tell.
that's it. That's it. Like they just had they did weird things to each other, slap at each other on body parts and stuff. Just and
Yeah.
these are all proven witnesses that have said these things. They had, I'll just say, they had a weird sexual energy to that family. And I still have my doubts about whether or not there maybe sometime in the past was something between Alex and Lori. I mean, I'm just speculating because he was wrapped around her little finger. He committed murders, plural, for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Attempted and successful.
Yes, correct.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Pammy says they were very touchy-feely. Yeah. Very touchy-feely. And Alex had a car accident, right, when he was like 18 or something, 19, right? And then he had
I don't remember that.
something with his brain. Chad, help me out. Yep. He had something starts with a T. I forget what it is. He had something that made him a little off. Aaron might know too. What was Alex got in a car accident? He had something happen to his brain that made him a little off.
There are so many stories and so many layers to so many stories in this case that it's just almost impossible to keep track of all of them.
That's true. I want to say like TBI or something like that, but anyway.
Traumatic brain injury.
Something like that. Yeah. TBI, traumatic brain injury. Yeah. TBI, something like that. All right. I'm sure chat will pop it up.
Yep. All right.
All right. So I'm sorry, Erwin, and the next guy up was calling him Wiz, I guess. So maybe
Wiz. Wiz.
Yeah.
The wonderful Wiz we know.
Where's Bicky? Okay. So witness number one, we'll just say Officer Erwin.
Okay. With the Chandler Police Department, he was the first officer to arrive on scene, only by a few seconds. But when he got to scene, he turned on his body cam, and he described Alex's demeanor. So he tells a story about arriving on scene, and Alex coming out of the front door of the house with his phone in one hand and his left other hand raised up, because that's what the 911 operator told him to do. And I wrote down the important part of this, which was Trina asked him what was Alex's demeanor. And I wrote it down when he said it: nonchalant and compliant. And it strikes me as odd now, because that's exactly what the other police officer said too. They both use the word nonchalant.
Yep.
And I know these guys were both coached by the prosecution. I'm not saying they were coached to lie. I'm just saying it's really odd to me that they both use that very precise word that is not a usual word we use when we're talking about suspects. Nonchalant.
And then that word ended up being used a lot throughout the rest of the day. I think Lori used it a lot. Yep. And let's remember that let's remember Officer Erwin said, and you wrote it down too, because I wrote it down as well. I have nonchalant and complacent, but you have compliant. But we both got the nonchalant right. So let's remember that for the cross. So I just want to put a pin in that.
So there were two officers on scene within about 10, 15 seconds of each other. So he had Alex sit on the curb, and while he went inside to clear the house, which means he's checking for further victims or further suspects. Well, checking for victims at this point, he doesn't even know there's one victim for sure. It's just been reported. He hasn't seen for himself yet. He will in a few seconds. But he has Alex sit down on the curb. He doesn't frisk him.
Right.
This guy just admits to shooting somebody, and the cop sets him on the curb and does not frisk him.
Yeah, that's pretty odd, right? I didn't even think about that till you just said that.
Yeah, neither one of the officers frisked him immediately right off the bat. I've heard they did later on the body worn cam. We didn't see it today, but right off the bat, a suspect comes out admitting to shooting somebody. You don't detain them. You don't frisk them. Hey, sit down on the curb right here while I go in the house and turn my back on you. And
right, and they had guns drawn on him, right? As he's coming out, they have guns. We saw the body cam. I mean, yeah, and as soon as he comes out and they see that he's nonchalant, they put their guns at. Well, he kept his gun out because he was going to clear the house. It was a second officer that stayed there with him, but they didn't frisk him. Right. Yeah.
So,
wow. You know what, Joe? I never even thought about that until you just mentioned that. Because now I'm like, oh my God, what were they doing? What were they thinking? You're right. They turned their back on him. He could have taken off. He could have pulled another gun. He could have gone into the car and just done anything.
He could have gotten his truck and taken off.
Yeah.
His truck was right there in the driveway. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
So he went into the house to clear the house. He saw the victim laying on his back with his hands to his side, which was an interesting note to me.
Yeah.
Charles's hands were at his side.
Yeah.
And at this point, I note a note about the jury. I have made a jury observation that the jury appears to be attentive at this point in this officer's testimony.
Good one.
Lori, Trina asked him something about seeing something. Maybe it was about the bullet laying. I don't remember. Trina asked him. I didn't write down the question. All I wrote down was that Lori objects leading the witness. And I honestly thought that was a decent objection. The judge overruled it, but Lori's objection was that Trina was leading the witness somehow, because Trina asked him a question. He said, I don't know. And she goes, well, maybe was it this? Maybe did you see this? And that's when Lori objected.
No, you're spot on. I have, did you observe any projectiles on the ground? Objection, leading, overruled.
Yeah.
So Lori got one. Lori got one. She got an objection in, and it was
right. It was an appropriate objection, I thought.
Yeah.
Judge did not agree with me.
Right.
He's continuing to clear the house, and he found a gun in one of the back bedrooms. Did you touch the gun? He said, I don't remember. At this point in time, he says, I don't remember. He changes that later on, but at this point in time, he says, I don't remember. I don't recall. And that's when the fire department entered and began to render aid to the subject. And that's when we load up State's Exhibit number 2, which is funny because it's the first exhibit, but it's labeled State's Exhibit number 2.
Right.
Which is the body-worn camera. And then there are also still pictures, which are State's Exhibit number 3. And this is all video that is without audio. So this is where we see Charles's body pretty close up, because he comes in and checks his pulse, like right off the bat. Says that he appears deceased to him, like he wasn't worth performing CPR on because he was too far gone.
Yeah.
Turns out he was right, but Lori's going to catch him on that a little bit.
There were 2 stills that were shown to Irwin, and he confirms there was blood pooling around the neck area. Did they show those to the jury?
Yes.
Or no? They did show those. Okay.
Yeah. Those were put up on the overhead projector.
Okay. And those were stills from his body cam, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. What else would they be? Right. Yeah.
So, and then the last question that I have for her is, she asks if he found any phones in the house. In other words, setting the foundation for her to show that Lori took off with a phone herself.
Right.
And we are going to see the tracking of that phone, the geolocation, because Charles had the geolocation turned on that phone. So we're going to see where Lori went with his phone somewhere down the road here.
Yep. Yeah, Miss Kay talked about that in opening, that Charles had the GPS on his phone. Lori took it. Yep. She took it all over that day.
Lisa, that's a good question. Pop Lisa's question up there.
All right. Let's see which Lisa. Oops, hold on. Sorry. Lisa Shelton, did she get emotional at all looking at those videos?
I didn't see her get overly emotional, but I did see her looking down and shaking her head a couple of times. And I know the family got very emotional, but she looked down and shook her head and tried to maintain a straight face as best she could, but it wasn't her happy, flirty face for sure. She did have a reaction to it.
Miss Shorty has another question about how's the courtroom acoustics, audio in general, Joe, aside from the swearing the witnesses in?
Aside from swearing the witnesses in, it's great. Every once in a while, like when Lori began her opening statement, people would forget about the microphones. But Judge Bresky's courtroom assistant is really good about rushing over there and bending the microphone down and making sure that either the witness or the attorney or whoever it is talking into the microphone. So yeah, it's really good. The video is really good too. There were like 6 video screens. I think there's one or two in the back for the gallery that we can like turn and look. I prefer to watch the ones that are out there in the courtroom. There's like 4 of them in the courtroom, including a huge projection screen that's like almost as big as a movie theater screen.
Wow. Do you know that Jodi Arias was the courtroom right across from where you guys are? That's
Oh,
where.
and 5C.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure which courtroom it was, but I hear it was just right across from where you guys are.
Yeah,
So,
it's probably identical, if not a mirror image of the one
yeah.
we're in.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting.
And actually, the lady that was in line for the public seating #1 was at the Jodi Arias trial.
Okay.
And she's the one that got there at 5 o'clock in the morning today.
Of course. Yeah.
Oh,
She knows she's a professional.
yeah, I guess. It's at least it's Phoenix and not Delphi, Indiana. So it was like 65 degrees instead of 35 degrees. So
That's true. Yeah.
I'll take standing out in 65 degrees, 65, 70-degree weather all
Right.
morning long.
Aaron is asking on the side, what time did you get there this morning?
I was in line between 7 and 7:15.
Okay.
Got to the parking lot like right at 7, and it's like a block walk. It's really crazy because parking is so hard to find and so expensive. Trace on the case helped me find this parking lot that's only a block away from that entrance to the South Tower, and you can get a monthly rate, which we did. That is a heck of a good deal because it's like if you park in a parking garage or one of the local lots, it's like $25 a day.
Yeah. Oof, that's going to add up.
Yeah, it is. So this spot that's only a block away is $100 for the month. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to take that deal.
Nice. Also, is there a lottery for who gets in, or is it just kind of first come, first serve?
It's first come, first serve. That's literally called first come, first serve.
Wow. Okay.
So that's when I started organizing, because I walk up there and there's just like this mass of like 12 to 15 people, and they're just kind of standing around in groups, and I'm like, is this the line for Lori Daybell trial? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, it doesn't look like much of a line. Can we like just slide over this way a little bit, slide over this way, and then I'll stand behind this guy. And now it looks like a line. And then sure enough, the next guy that comes and stands right behind me. He's like, oh, is this a line? I'm like, yeah, this is the line. We just made a line.
Good organizational skills there.
I had to do it multiple times today, but once you set that precedent on day one, it's like, that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you going to hold like a flag? Are you going to walk around with like a flag? Everybody will follow you. Follow Joe. Well, Joe, the court. I was going to say the court jester, but you're not the court jester at all.
Well, it's funny you say that, because we're sitting in our nice neat rows waiting to get into court, and the public information officer comes over, and he's mainly dealing with the media. He doesn't have to deal with the public at all, but he did take kind of charge today and kind of help us to organize beyond what I organized, and basically set it in stone, saying, okay, you guys got in the order you're going to get into. We're going to give you numbers. And he goes, does anybody know how many seats are inside for the public? I said, yeah, 45. And he goes, well, how do you know it's 45? I said, because it's 3 rows of 15. He goes, yeah, but it's not even on both sides. I go, yeah, it's 7 seats on one side, 8 seats on the other, 3 rows deep. And he goes, are you sure? I go, I'm sure. He goes, I'm going to go check. So he goes in the courtroom. He comes back out. He goes, yep, it's 45 seats for the public.
Nice. I love it. Telling him how many seats. I love that. That's awesome. Miss Shorty, flag and a whistle. So there you go, flag and a whistle.
Maybe a referee's uniform.
Right.
Or a hall monitor's sash.
Right, like when you're on a tour, you're a tour guide.
Oh, right.
I guess that's more what I was going for, but yeah, official, either one. Gotcha. Can you imagine if you showed up in a zebra outfit? All right, people, form one line.
Right. Have a couple of yellow flags. No cutting in line. 5-yard penalty.
Foul on you, number 22. All right.
All right.
So cross. Okay. So then we get to cross. Lori's first shot at cross. What did you think?
I think she missed a point that she could have made right off the bat, because
Okay.
she asked him about nonchalant. She
Yes.
said, when Alex came out, you said he was nonchalant. And he goes, I don't remember saying that. She goes,
Yes.
yeah, I'm pretty sure you just said that. And he goes, no, I don't remember that. And at
Mm-hmm.
that point in time, Lori should have said, I can have the court reporter read it back. Would you like the court reporter to read it back? You know, like
Yep.
out of A Few Good Men.
Yep.
He'd
Yep.
be like,
Yep.
I don't need the court reporter to read it back. No. So, but she could have and should have asked the court reporter to read it back, because he absolutely 100% did say nonchalant.
Yep. Yep. I
But
caught that as well. Yeah.
she just let it go. She just let it
Yep.
go. She goes, okay,
Yep. He says, I wouldn't use that word, but calm. He
right,
says, I wouldn't use that word. Oh, sir, but you did. Just literally 10
yes.
minutes earlier, you did say nonchalant. So I'm glad you caught it because we caught it. So, yep.
And then she asked him why he didn't perform CPR. He said he was too far gone. Um, what kind of a gun did you find? I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
How long were you on the scene? I don't remember. Did you discuss the case with Nocella, which was his supervisor?
Mm-hmm.
That's about all I have. So I took short notes on that. Do you have more detail on that?
I do. Okay, so did you perform CPR? It appeared he was deceased. CPR would make it worse due to wounds on chest. So when 911 was telling my brother it would have the same effect, he's like, well, it depends on when the call came in. That was kind of, I mean, again, I think she could have pressed him a little bit more, but eventually he did say, yes, it could have had the same effect. But then Alex would be bloody, right? Alex would have blood on his hands if he's doing compressions. Plus, they would have seen, as we found out later, they would have known that he had actually done CPR, which he did not, I don't think.
Right.
Oh, do you have crime scene experience? He's like, just my 20 years.
Right.
I thought he was pretty snarky back to her.
Well,
Uh,
I think she said crime scene investigation experience.
oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
I think, if I remember
Yeah.
right, and
Yeah.
I didn't write it down, so that's just going off of road
Sure.
memory.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Did you see me arrive on the scene? He says, I was on my way out of the crime scene when you arrived. She objected. Please ask questions only because she was asking. She was.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, this was a really big objection, because
yeah.
she wasn't asking questions, she was testifying.
Yep.
So Trina said, objection, the defendant is testifying, and the judge said, Ms. Daybell, or whatever he said, please just ask questions and
Yeah.
don't. Yeah,
It
that was a
started.
pretty big objection in my mind.
It was. It was. It started with Lori asking, "How did you see the two wounds through the shirt?" He said, "Just an observation I saw. I'm not exactly sure what I saw when I was there, other than two holes in his shirt." And then Lori kind of said it as an aside, but she says, "I guess his shirt was open when you walked by, and then it just kind of hung." And then that's when Ms. K said, "Objection," questioning, and judge said, "Yeah, please ask questions only." So.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. Because Lori said, I saw. And as soon as she says what I saw was, then she is testifying and
yeah.
not asking questions. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she proceeded to ask, I think what she's going to ask every law enforcement, how long, let's see, how long after did you make a report? Did you make any revisions? Were there any edits to your report? So she asked Krotheim that as well. So I'm just thinking, I'm kind of sensing a pattern where she's going to ask the same questions to everybody. And I mean, the lawyers do the same thing. So I don't really hold that against her, but I was just kind of noting patterns when and where they would occur. So that I think was one of them. And then she ended it with, thank you. That's all I have. And then she was done.
Yep.
So how did,
And
how did
then,
you, how did you think she did? Sorry to interrupt, but how
no,
do you think?
you're fine. I, I don't think it was horrible. I
Yeah.
mean, she wasn't some stark raving lunatic like we've seen from some pro se, pro per defendants. I mean,
Yeah.
we all know the big cases that just like make a mess of it. I don't think she's making a mess of it. I don't know that the jury's buying what she's selling,
Mm-hmm.
which they're going to have to, but all it takes is one to be like,
Yeah.
you know what? She's making decent arguments. She sounds fairly sane. She sounds fairly, you know, not deeply experienced in legal matters, but she knows how to cross. She
Mm-hmm.
knows how to handle herself in court for the most part.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I was actually, I don't want to say impressed, but I was like, wow, I thought this would go off the rails a lot quicker. And it actually kind of started with, oh my gosh, it's already going off the rails with the juror being late and the employer. But then once actually it was Lori's time, I was actually surprised, maybe is more the word, where I thought she would do a much more circus like, you know,
Right.
acting, and she didn't. I bring this up, Trace, on the case. A couple sitting next to you was from Australia. We were watching Nate, and he was in line, and he talked to these people from Australia. So I think it must have been the same. Oh, there you go.
I'm gonna duck out for 1 second. I got to
Sure,
take
sure,
something
sure.
real quick.
Yep. Um, yeah. So Trace, we saw them. Yep. And then we also saw, I think that courtroom. What was it, manager? I forget what you called them. We saw them, with the line, and they were everybody was kind of milling about trying to form a line, and that person was saying, okay, he was talking to the media, um, to the people in line, the general people. Nicholas Ticholas, great handle, I love it. What was their reason for being there, Trace? Connected to the trial or trial watchers? That's a great question. Trey says, like in Australia, you can't buy a phone unless you take down your ID and your information so they know where all their phones are. Ah, here. Okay. So why were the Australians there? They went to another trial. They said they came for other things too, but I think that was the main reason. All right.
Yeah, when they were leaving, they said today was their only day here, so they were in and out.
Oh, bummer. Okay. All right. So redirect was, I thought actually the redirect wasn't too bad. Do you have notes on the redirect?
Yeah, the only thing that makes sense to me is just her bringing the CAD report in so they can detail the exact times that they showed up and they left, and his estimation of when he showed up and left was almost 10 minutes off. I mean,
Mm,
which is pretty significant in this case because we all know that Alex waited to call 911. So
yeah.
when did he actually show up?
Yeah. The thing I got out of the redirect was the shooter's demeanor. Were you telling us what you observed? Yes, calm and collected after just shooting someone. Oh, yeah. So was everybody else calm and collected? I think that's what
Was
I
that
think.
this one or was that Krautheimer?
I've got that as this one for redirect,
Oh, I
but
didn't.
it's also,
Oh, you know what? I was tweeting during this. That's why I missed it. I tweeted what you
yeah.
wrote down. That
Okay.
Yeah, that she said. Um, so you were calm, cool, and collected on scene. Did you just
Hmm.
shoot? Had you just shot somebody?
Yeah.
Was Officer Krautheimer? Was he calm, cool, and collected? Had he just shot somebody? What about the fire department?
Hmm.
What about you here today? Are you calm, cool, and collected here today? Have you testified before?
Hmm.
So I
That,
thought those were good questions.
yeah, that actually she does ask, because I just looked. She did ask Krautheim that, but she also asked Wiz that as well. Shooter's
Okay,
demeanor. Were you telling us what you observed? Yes, calm and collected after just shooting someone. Okay, so okay. My notes are because I'm kind of confusing the two, even though it's the shooter's demeanor, which was Alex. Were you telling us what you observed? Yes, he was calm and collected after just shooting someone. So okay, so it was Krautheim that she says, you know,
were
all
the
the other
other people
things.
on scene?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. All right. All right. So let's get to the jury. No, jury questions. There were none. Okay. So this time, no jury questions. Then we get to witness number 2, Robert Krautheim, who is also a patrol officer. Do you want to take it away there?
Yeah, so he was the second one on scene. He showed up like 10, 15 seconds behind the first officer, the whiz.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Alex appeared calm and nonchalant.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting term.
Yep.
Um, Basically the same things that the other officer testified to, except that he stayed with Alex more. He was the
Mm-hmm.
one that babysat Alex while the whiz was clearing the house
Right.
and making the scene safe for the firefighters to come in and render aid to the victim. And then we get into the body worn cam video. What do you have in addition to that before we get to the video?
Music starts to play. This was when the music just started to
Oh,
randomly play. So what was that about?
so that was just this weird, like, electronic musical, like, synthesizer type of music that just came from out of nowhere, and everybody just stops and looks
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around, and at first I thought it was somebody's phone in the gallery, and I'm like, oh man, somebody's going to
Right.
be in trouble. Judge
Right.
Bareski's looking around like he's looking over his
Who am I going to find in contempt?
yeah, right, exactly. He's just like looking around and looking around, and I think it lasted like maybe 15 seconds, which is a really long time in court.
It
When there's
was,
like
yeah.
the devil came in the room.
Devil came
I,
in the room, sis.
I
Yeah.
thought I thought maybe Lori conjured something up, and we were all going to get portaled out somewhere, or maybe she was. It was
Yeah.
just weird synthesizer music.
It was bizarre. Yeah. And Krautheim, I took some screenshots. He was like giving these weird, like, he's like looking around.
I was
Yeah.
too. That was like almost everybody in the court. Like I was trying to be like, not me, not me. That's not my phone.
Right. It was a portal, right? Miss Shorty, yep, Krista. Everybody's saying it was a portal. Chad sending Lori a portal. Right.
So what happened was juror number 13's phone was sitting next to some type of an audio button on the front wall, that wooden wall in front of the jury box. So he
Wow.
had some type of an alert going off on his phone that ended up being broadcast throughout the entire court.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So that was that juror number 13 question.
Wow.
That why he got held back after we went to the mid-afternoon break.
Wow. How did they figure it out? How did they sort that out?
The detective work? I don't know.
Wow. That is so random.
I don't even know why they're allowing a juror to have a phone in the courtroom.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you when we got to that point, because that's coming up, a little bit later. I was going to ask you that. Why were they? Are you allowed your phone in or no?
Yes.
You can bring. Okay.
We're allowed laptops, phones. We can actually record audio. We cannot distribute it, but we can record audio for the purposes of our own notes. And I may actually try and see if I can dig up my audio recorder out of my boxes here. That's going to be a task. It may be easier just for me to order a new one. But yeah, for the purposes of our notes, we can actually do audio recordings of the courtroom sessions.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Let's see. So what else do I have? Where did we leave off with Krautheim?
Right before the body worn camera video. And then you said the weird musical noises.
Okay. Yeah. I have, okay. Oh yeah. So right before, no objection to Exhibit 1. Did she ask why there were so many law enforcement and fire department around her house? He said no. Did Lori ask about her brother? Oh yeah. So he also, so Lori comes up to the scene. Lori and Tylee come up, and Krautheim is the one that, interacts with them for.
Right. Intercepts her from the scene.
Yeah.
Tells her to go back to her car.
Go to the other side of Lori was nonchalant and calm. I have that as a note. Everybody was nonchalant. That seemed to be the word of the day. Okay, yeah. So then we get to the body cam, and then they show the body cam. So that's where we are.
Right, and that's where the jury kind of got bored with the long stretches of that were not very interesting. Had no audio. I'm really gonna have to fix this lighting. Like, it's driving me nuts.
I kind of dig it. Yeah, but I hear what you're saying.
We'll get there. This is better than last time. It's an improvement.
Yes.
You can't lie about that. It's an improvement.
That is true.
So the body worn cam just basically shows him going around, and eventually he briefs the detectives, and he briefs his sergeant, Nocella, on what he has been doing all day. But he also goes over to talk to Lori and Tylee. He ends up also talking to Tylee. And they turn the audio on for that, as you guys know. And that's Lori's nonchalant, "Hey neighbor" video, that we all watched before we came to this trial and were just like totally baffled. Like, your husband was shot to death by your brother like an hour and a half ago.
Yep.
You just disappeared. You were there when it happened. I'm not saying you were in the room. She claims she wasn't in the room. I'm not sure one way or the other. It doesn't really matter. No. And then you just disappear with the kids and come back an hour and a half later and they're all nonchalant and flirty with the cop.
Yep. So just real quick, people are saying that they like the blue lighting.
Okay.
Yeah, I have just to add to that. Did you believe Lori knew her husband was dead? He says, "I did not. I thought she just arrived back at the house and didn't know what happened." So I
Right.
could see how that would throw you if you're, an officer and you're like, you do realize, that this just happened. And she's just like, "Oh, hi neighbors. Sorry. We've only been here 3 weeks." She's just so bizarre.
Yeah. And he's all prepared to give the death notification.
Yeah.
And that's one of the worst tasks that you can have as a law enforcement officer, is a death notification.
Yeah.
But apparently she knows about it already and she's okay with it.
Sorry, I got Nicholas Ticholas. I like the blue too, like Finding Nemo meets true crime story. That's pretty good. All right. Then we get to cross, unless you have anything to add for direct. Was there anything else in there? Nothing too earth shattering.
Alex refused medical treatment. He says he asked him 3 times, right? If he wanted medical treatment, and Alex refused medical treatment 3 times. And then crime scene containment. I have a note about crime scene containment. What does that mean? And he says that's making sure that there aren't too many people that go on the scene, and that the things that are on the scene don't get disturbed any more than they have to.
Yeah.
And then cross, yes.
Okay.
So Lori starts out with this calm scene thing. She's like, "So the scene was calm?" He's like, "Yeah." "So I was calm." "So, yeah. So I was calm." "Yeah." "So you were calm?" "Yeah." "So everything in the scene was calm?" "Yeah." "So would it be unusual for me to arrive at a scene that is calm and not be calm?" And did we get an objection from Trina there in that? Because it calls for speculation.
I have that. Yeah. Yep.
I didn't write it down, but I remember it now.
Yeah. Yep. It was sustained.
Yes.
My next note is interesting. What do you have next?
It's about Alex's no medical treatment.
Okay. Yeah. Right before that, did you say it looked like a goose egg? And he says tomato.
Right. Yes.
Did he really say, like, he said it looked like a goose egg? I don't remember.
No. She said, "Could you also say it looked like a goose egg?" In other words, she's trying to make it look bigger. So you said it was a bump. Could you also say it was a goose egg?
Okay.
Tomato.
Gotcha. Okay.
So he's agreeing that you could call it a goose egg, which is, to me, a significant admission, because a goose egg to me is a pretty big bump.
Yep, I would agree to that. Yeah.
And when I saw his head, because when he went to the Chandler PD interview, and then you guys have probably watched that video too of him in the interview room, we see the back of his head. It's right there in front of the camera. That does not look like a goose egg to me.
No.
I would not call that a goose egg. So
yeah.
This is a pretty big admission to me. Like, she's got a little bit of a wedge right in there that maybe she can do something with his testimony down the road. I don't know.
Right. Agreed.
And then, but he didn't want medical treatment. No. Did you ask somebody to come over and look at him? No. There was fire department and EMTs there. They could have come over to look at him, right? No, we didn't ask him to come over and look at him. I'm not sure where she was going with that. And then nonchalant.
Comes up
You said
again.
he was nonchalant.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he at least admits that he used the word nonchalant.
Right.
What does that mean to you? And he's like, I don't know, kind of like I am right now.
Yep. My words exactly.
I don't know where she was going with that either. Do you have more on that?
No, is this your typical demeanor? Then there was an objection, speculation. Oh, if Alex's normal demeanor is in a stressful situation is nonchalant, then that means that's just his that's just who he is. Even though he
Right.
just literally shot and killed somebody, that's I guess that's where she was going. And there was another objection for that for it was compound, but yeah.
Right.
So I guess that's what I get out of that. That if this is Alex's normal demeanor, his normal personality, this is just who he is. He's just cool. He's a calm, cool assassin. That's what I called him today in chat. He's a calm, cool assassin.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
And then they talk about her being parked across the street, and she seems to think that the fact that her car was parked across the street is some kind of shade on her not wanting to be too close to the scene. So then she starts to go into the fact that there's a whole bunch of emergency vehicles in the way, and that's the only place she could have parked. And his response to that was actually the proper response. He's like, no, there's like 400 parking spots around I mean, he didn't say that literally, but there were 400 other places to park. You could park down the street, you could park around the corner, you could park south of the house.
Right.
And she's like, no, I mean to park as close to the house as I can. And he goes, I don't even think he had a response to that, did he?
Actually, I got an objection testifying.
Yes, right. There you go. There you go. So he didn't have to answer that.
Yeah.
Now we get into a really interesting part with a lot of objections.
Yes.
Because she asked him if he gave Alex a ride to PD, and he did. This is the officer that took Alex down to the Chandler Police Department police station for an interview. Before he left, he briefed the detectives and the case agents. Now, she asked him, so did Alex tell you that he was hit in the back of the head with that? Charles tried to grab the bat and hit him in the back of the head. Objection. Hearsay. And she tries like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. Objection, hearsay, objection, hearsay. And the judge finally says, hearsay is anything that is not a matter of court record. So in other words, she had to have some type of official record entered in with this. She's trying to go around and about the legal ways of getting this in to try and get Alex as to what Alex said happened, or what she said Alex said happened. Well, Alex said it too. He's just not here to testify to that now. He said they had a fight and he got whacked in the back of the head. So she's trying to get it in through this surreptitious method. Yeah. And Trina's not having it, and the judge isn't having it. I wonder what the jury thinks about it, though. Like, because they've heard it now, and you can't unring the bell. I mean, she said, did Alex tell you that Charles grabbed the bat and whacked him in the back of the head? Something like that. She got it in there. I mean, even though the judge said objection sustained, it's out there in the universe.
Yeah. I was told, oh no, that's not her. At one point she said, what's the legal objection? And it was hearsay. Yeah, they were talking. Okay, so I have like a lot of objections through here. I have like 4 in a row. And then before that, I've got speculation. And I've got another one. Defendant is testifying, all within like, I have like maybe 10 rows of text. And there's probably like, well, at least 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 objections within that, within that little blip there. Yeah.
Yeah. It was happening too fast for me to write down.
Yeah.
And that's all I have before cross-examine. Or, we take a break. So we're at almost 3:30, and the judge is like, all right, Lori keeps going on and on and on and on, so we're going to take a break, and then she can come back and finish her cross-examination of this witness after we get back.
Yes.
And that was a nice little break. You always need that. Remember when we were in school
Mm-hmm.
and you'd go to that first class after lunch and you just like, it was everything you could do to stay awake.
Yep. Absolutely.
I
Yep.
wasn't having trouble staying awake, but it's just like, you need to get up and stretch, like about an hour and a half after lunch, you need to get up and stretch. So the
Absolutely.
judge gave us a break.
Yep.
But here's the other interesting thing about the jury. They get to exit first. All rise for the jury. Jury exits. Then the families go out, and then the public goes out with the media all about the same time. The jury's out there on break, intermingling with the rest of us, like this big room that's in between the courtrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's in there taking a break. Like, we all use the same bathroom. We all use the same water fountains. We all stand around in the same space as the
Mm-hmm.
jurors.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it seems like a recipe for disaster for me, for some juror getting tainted.
I agree. So you're this Groovy Cheryl. Thank you. Don't forget to tell us about the juror. This is juror 15. Is that your phone, Judge? That's what we heard right before the break. The judge says, "Juror 15, is that your phone?" And then he kind of,
Juror 13. His
oh,
phone
was
was
it
the cause of
13?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, his phone was the cause of that weird musical thing that went on
yeah. So
that
that's
interrupted.
so was that juror like embarrassed, or did they go like, or?
Well, that juror is the juror that used to, I don't think he still does, used to work for the City of Mesa Public Works Department.
Okay.
And he's very casual. He's very nonchalant.
To use the
And
word
he's
of the
the,
day.
yes, and he's the only juror that I see with a phone in the jury box. And I don't know, maybe if he still works for the Public Works Department, he has to have it there in case there's an emergency, but that doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. I mean,
Huh.
he just, he's like a lot of public works people that I've dealt with in the past, like on the blue collar side of it, like on the street department or something like that, you know.
Mhm.
But I have a feeling that he already thinks that Lori's guilty and he's not really paying that much attention to the trial. Like, I get that vibe. I totally could be wrong. I mean,
Mhm.
he could have an open mind, and but I just get that vibe from him. Like, he's an older. When I say older, like probably a little bit older than me, maybe 60-ish,
Mhm.
and just very no nonsense kind of guy that
Mhm.
shuffles into the jury box, shuffles out of the jury box with his phone in hand, except he forgot it last time.
Hmm. All right. I guess he's getting a pass, or
I
all the
guess.
all. Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll keep an eye on that going forward. See if any other jurors, if you can see their phones or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So we're coming up on the milkshake comment. So let's.
Uh-oh.
We're coming up on the milkshake comment. So we're coming
Um,
back after break, and Lori is still doing cross.
yes. Starting at 3:38 p.m. She asked, "Did you brief the detectives before you left?" Yes. Did you review your report before you came in today? Yes. So tell me about crime scene management. Okay, crime scene management is, and he goes on to describe crime scene management, what his duties are, which don't involve crime scene investigation, but he's talking about maintaining the integrity of the scene, the number of people in and out of the scene, those sort of things,
Mhm.
and making sure that like civilians don't come and enter the scene.
All right.
Now, she asked, how long did it take you to brief your superior
Mhm.
on what had taken place on the day? And he said, oh, about a minute, minute and a half.
Right.
How long did it take you to brief the detectives on your goings on of the day? Oh, about a minute, minute and a half. So maybe
Mhm.
under a minute. Yeah, maybe under a minute.
Mhm.
So you have a 3-page report here. And I think there was an objection in there too from Trina. I don't remember what it was.
I have three. I have three
3.
objections
Oh
right before
gosh.
that. Like right before that. It was right after the milkshake comment and right before the 3 pages to write
Okay,
reports.
you're gonna have to fill me in on that because I have like 3 sentences, not like a whole page on that part of it.
All right. So the
So
briefing was
you walk
under.
us through. Yeah.
Okay. So she says, "Did you brief the detective before you left for the station?" Yes. Who was it? It was Moffat. And then he mentioned a couple other guys. I didn't. I just got Moffat. Lori says, I don't want to interrupt you, as she actually does interrupt him. He says the briefing was under a minute, which you talked about. He met with the state 2 weeks ago to go over testimony, and that lasted an hour. And here's the chocolate milkshake. Did you have conversation when your supervisor arrived? I did. When was that? It was between when I arrived and when I left, which I thought was like a brilliant comment. Did you have a conversation with your superior? Yeah, it was before. It was when I arrived. It was between when I arrived and left. Brilliant. And then I forget what she. I forget what she asked. Maybe could you clarify that or something? And he says chocolate milkshake says about half time. So what?
That's some kind of a local saying. It's got to be some kind of a local idiom.
Okay. Is it like I was taking it? People were taking it different ways. I was taking it as,
chocolate milkshake is a bet. So he's betting her a chocolate milkshake that it was.
That's the way I took it. That's the way I took
time.
it. Yeah, that's the way I took it. Yeah.
And the gallery cracked up when he said that.
Yeah. All right. So that was a good one. All right. And then you only talk to your supervisor for less than 1 minute. Then I have objection. I don't know what it was for. Then another objection, asked and answered, sustained. Then another objection. Judge says, I'll allow that one. And then it took 3 pages to write the report, but less than 1 minute to talk to your supervisors. Yes. And then that's all I have, Your Honor. So that's what I have with that.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. Like, how do you summarize 3 pages of stuff in 1 minute? You got to be talking really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? Just at 1 page? You think 1 page, 1 minute, 2 pages? I don't know. That's tough.
Well, it depends on is your report a form where you're just like filling in name, number, and address and that sort of thing? Is that the front page of it, and then you have a narrative as the second page? Like 1 page of narrative would probably be about a minute, I would guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you have 2 pages of narrative, I can't see you getting through that in a minute.
Yeah. True. Unless he talked really fast.
Right.
Yeah.
It was the end of his shift. He wanted out of there. Actually, he's the one that said that he went back. He took Alex back to the police department and then went back out and went 10-8 to be back on duty and take more calls.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it wasn't the end of his shift.
Yeah, that is true. So then redirect was pretty quickly. Do you have anything for redirect?
Nonchalant and calm.
Yep. This is where she goes and she asks everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you were nonchalant and calm. Had you just shot somebody? Mm-hmm. Your fellow officers were nonchalant and calm. Had they just shot anybody? No. Fire department was nonchalant and calm. Had they just shot anybody? And he goes, well, not that I know of.
Yeah.
Which is a true statement. Yeah.
Yeah. I like this witness. He was pretty cool.
And then she talked about the lack of blood on the cloth that Alex was using on his wound. And she keeps doing this thing where she's talking about he was dabbing it, but he was also rubbing it. Like, she said that like 2 or 3 times now, mentioned him rubbing the back of his head. And I'm wondering if she's going to bring in some kind of testimony that maybe he was like intentionally exacerbating like a surface wound of some kind by doing that. Like,
gotcha.
If he was making a scratch where I'm curious. It's curious to me that she keeps mentioning that rubbing the wound.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you have a wound, you're not going to rub it. You're going to, keep compression on it,
Right.
I mean, the last thing you want to do is like aggravate it by rubbing it,
Right.
So.
And then she also goes over the CAD report with specific details about his times, his arrival time, certain times at the scene, and then what time he took Alex back to the station, I think. Mm-hmm.
There was a jury question in the bin. Did they actually ask the jury question? Did it get asked? Because I missed that if they did. What happened there?
The court assistant took the question up to the judge. They went to sidebar, which means they put on their headphones and they play the white noise. Mm-hmm. And when they came back from that, the judge didn't make a ruling on the jury questionnaire or the jury question. Mm-hmm. But Trina got up, and that's when she asked her question.
And okay, good. So I didn't miss anything.
No. So I'm wondering if the judge in that sidebar didn't say, well, this jury question is really something that the state should have asked. So we're going to go ahead and, because usually what happened in Delphi when there was a jury question is the judge would ask the witness that question.
Mm-hmm.
I think, or maybe the state did. No, it was the state that would ask the question. Mm-hmm. So maybe that was the jury question that Trina read right before we went on to the next witness. So do you have that question written down? Because I did not.
I have, do you know when you were finished? And he says
Yes,
10 minutes after he used the restroom, got some water, and then he was done with this call before the end of his shift. Oh, done with this call before the end of his shift.
But the judge didn't state it like, okay, the state is going to ask the jury question now. He said the state has one more question now for the witness.
So maybe that was the jury question. Because from what I can remember, usually the judge is like, we have a question from the jury. They make sure it's okay from both parties, state and defense. And then the question is blah, blah, blah. Like the judge will read it and then the witness has to answer it or whatever. That's what I'm more familiar with. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, me too. It doesn't make sense that he wouldn't just say, okay, the state is going to ask the juror question now.
Yeah.
He said the state has another question.
Right. Well, let's keep an eye out going forward. Yep. I'm sure that there will be other questions. So, and then the judge asks Lori if she has any follow-ups, and she says, no, Your Honor. So the first witness, he didn't ask her, do you have any follow-ups? This time he did.
Correct.
Right? Interesting. Yep. So
to use one of Lori's favorite responses, correct.
Correct. Yes.
Correct.
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor. All right, then we come to our third and final witness, Scott Cowden. Scott Cowden, who was a fire department and EMT. So do you want to walk us through his testimony?
Sure. And actually, he was a paramedic, not just an EMT. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
An EMT, and actually there's an EMT-A and an EMT-B.
Okay.
And they have different just for lack of a better term, life-saving skills. And a paramedic has even more education and more life-saving and intervention skills. Like paramedics can administer IVs, EMTs cannot in most jurisdictions.
Okay, cool.
So just things like that.
No thanks.
But he's not only a paramedic, he's also a CPR instructor.
Yes.
And I think he has been for like 10 years. He was kind of a younger guy, though, and I got a little bit of a nervous vibe from him. So I have a feeling that he hasn't testified in very many, if any, trials before, especially one of this magnitude. I got just a little bit of a nervous vibe from him. Mm-hmm. But they get immediately. Go ahead.
I was going to say somebody in chat thought he may have been on shift the night before or something because he looked a little tired. Did you think he looked tired at all?
I couldn't see him close up. I couldn't see him close up enough. I read it more as a nervous vibe, but it's possible. I mean, they work. Sometimes they work 24-hour shifts. Sometimes they work 12-hour shifts. It just depends on the jurisdiction. But sometimes they work like 4 on, 3 off, 4 days on, 3 days off type of a schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're living at the firehouse and you get calls in the middle of the night, the next day can be pretty rough.
Yeah, agreed. Yep.
So we immediately start getting into chest compressions. Mm-hmm. He talks about what CPR is, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. I thought that it was noteworthy that he just focuses on chest compressions. He tells what chest compressions are and what sometimes happens to the body that you're doing chest compressions are, what happens. He doesn't mention the breathing part of cardiopulmonary resuscitation. The P is pulmonary. You also administer artificial breaths to the victim if they're not breathing. Mm-hmm. So it's not just about chest compressions. Some people think it is. The ratio of chest compressions to breaths has changed over the years. It used to be like 5 to 2. You would do like 5 chest compressions and 2 breaths, 5 chest compressions and 2 breaths. And then it became like 10 to 2, then became like 15 to 2. There are even some European countries that do like 30 to 2 because that circulation of the blood to the brain is like the most important part of that. You need oxygen to the brain too, but the effectiveness of like a 15 to 2 ratio is going to be more than like a 5 to 2 ratio.
So it seems like a lot of people are saying breaths aren't even standard now.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. Future says they've changed it to only compressions now. Hey, Mona, CPR is taught without breaths now.
Wow.
Baca, they don't do breaths anymore. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
Live
know,
and
so
learn.
I don't have an opinion on that. I'll just go with
Well, that tells you
yeah.
how long it's been since I was CPR certified.
Yeah. 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 So Miss
It,
Shorty. All right, Miss Shorty even confirms it. Oh no, wait, it's the compressions which count.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Chest
Okay.
compressions. Right.
Hey Mona,
Well,
O2. Oh, hey Mona was you're a nurse or used to be a nurse. Yeah, so hey Mona, the O2 gets to the brain with blood
that
circulations.
makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for the
Mhm.
education. I appreciate that.
Sinbad only compressions now. Miss Shorty, we have no breaths at all. Okay. All right. Oh, there we go. Hey Mona, licensed RN.
Uh, so you think you know more than me?
Oh, she'll take you to school, Joe.
I believe it. I was a firefighter EMT. See, the most recent was '06. So gosh, that's almost 19 years ago. Holy cow.
Wow.
I don't I
Impressive.
don't I know if somebody were dying and they needed if they needed CPR, which apparently now is just chest compressions, I would do it, but
Yeah.
just in a life or death emergency. And she asked him in the course of this examination, I'm not sure if it was right at the beginning, but it's relevant to this because she asked him, what if somebody calls 911 and you can't detect a pulse? What does 911 do with that person that doesn't know CPR? And he
Right.
said, well, I guess they would walk them through it. And they do. 911 operators are taught to try
Mhm.
and walk people through CPR.
Yep.
Well, that's good. We don't have to give breaths anymore because we used to have to deal with that stupid shield. Like you would be
Yeah.
trying to give somebody breaths through that shield that you would have to put over their mouth.
Like Lily Wayne says, I thought they changed it because people were afraid to do the mouth part, so many people weren't doing anything. They said do chest part only rather than nothing. So,
Yeah, like I just said, that plays a part in your thought process as an emergency responder.
yeah. Christine, circulation is most important. All right.
Chat is taking me to school,
Like
and I
I
love it.
said,
I
I
love
don't
it.
have an opinion, so I'll be like, yep. I'll just nod my head and say, yep, yep, okay. I gotcha. Oh, anti-puke shield, Christine says. Ah. Yeah. All right. Oh, here, hey Mona, our RN, 120 minutes with good compression. It changed because of evidence-based outcomes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe it. I believe it. It kept evolving over time.
Right. And Nicholas Tickles, yeah, but do you know how long to die on the cold? Asking for a friend. You're cross-pollinating trials now.
Right.
No cross-pollination allowed. All right. Scott Cowden.
Yes. So they start
Yeah.
talking about chest compressions.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and he talked about how when you're getting proper depth on your chest compressions,
Mhm.
the chest bones will crack and break, like your ribs will separate from the sternum.
Mhm.
I haven't ever done that myself. I have been in an ambulance with somebody that did that. It was audible when it happened.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's a lot of work. Chest compressions are a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like, so you need to be able to switch off with somebody else if you do it over a long period of time.
Mhm.
But he didn't talk about that. I'm talking about that. We'll talk about what he talked about. Um, you can you could see a visible reaction from some family members when they were talking about the rib bones or the chest bones cracking
Mhm.
during CPR, and some people in the gallery actually had a negative and adverse reaction to it. Also,
Yeah.
like I said, I was an EMT firefighter, so I'm used to that. But yeah, cartilage tears from the ribs. Yeah,
Mhm. He
um,
likened it to like cracking your knuckles. That's what he
yeah.
likened it to. Yeah, which doesn't sound that bad, but
It's a
anytime you
little
hear,
louder than that. It's a
yeah,
little louder than that.
anytime you hear bone breaking, it's not. That's
Yeah,
not anything you want to hear. Yeah.
you can actually break ribs if you're a little too vigorous with your chest compressions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that's all I have on the chest compressions, and then it gets into scene safety. Where did you generally, generically speaking, what about scene safety? Well, we will stage somewhere away from the scene until we know that law enforcement has cleared the scene and it's safe for us to go in to the scene.
Hmm.
Um, and then they get into specifics about this particular scene. Where did you stage? And he didn't say a distance, but he said we were probably like 30 seconds away, waiting for law enforcement to clear the scene so we could go in there and render aid. And actually, when I took my EMT practicals, so practicals are after you're done with the academic part of it, you have a practical test where they stage people with fake injuries, and you have to treat them according to the proper way to treat them. And every time you enter a room with a new fake injury, you have to say, "Is the scene safe?" That's the first question that a first responder that's not law enforcement should be asking, whether it's a paramedic or a firefighter. Is the scene safe? Yeah. So that's like ingrained in you. That's like the very first thing you're taught as a first responder is do not go into a scene that's not safe.
Sure.
So where did you stage? We staged about 30 seconds away. So you drove up. So this was the driver of the apparatus that was testifying today. He had to navigate through some of the law enforcement vehicles that were parked outside of the scene, outside of the house, parked as close to the house as he could. They hop out. The two firefighters in the back go to get the gear out of the back. His captain's in the passenger seat. He hops out and goes into the house first. And the captain may have checked his pulse, but that's about the only hands-on thing that the captain did that day. He was mostly monitoring and taking paperwork and stuff while the other three were working on the victim. He said when he saw the victim, he did not see any blood pooling, even on the neck area. He didn't recall the neck blood. He was asked, was it a possibility that he was deceased? Yes. It was definitely a possibility that he was deceased, but they have protocols that they have to follow. And unless there are certain signs and symptoms like liver mortis, I mean, that you can see when you're a first responder, you do have to go ahead and perform CPR. So they started working on him. He started the actual CPR himself. Eventually, after a little bit of CPR, they rolled him over to check the backside, to check for anomalies on the backside. That's when they noticed the bullet holes in his back. And somewhere in that time period, it was probably before he started CPR, one of the firefighters cut away the shirt. He noticed the bullet holes in the shirt, and he said, "Don't damage those, cut around those." So she kind of cut off to the side so he could find that area on the chest, which is where you're supposed to do chest compressions. So they rolled him over, checked the backside for anomalies, noticed the bullet holes, rolled him back over, continued chest compressions once they rolled him back over. Right, Susie? Yes, all this time Alex has now been searched. Frisked.
Yeah.
That could have been really, really bad.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that when I saw the body cam, and then now going through the first responders, law officers, testimony. It now that it's dawning on me, I'm like, what were they doing? I mean, they had guns on him. They had guns on him coming out of the house. I mean, he could have literally done anything, and they just let him sit there, and unbelievable. So anyway.
Yeah, there was a possibility he was deceased. Then they showed the still pictures. She asked if he remembers seeing that blood that pooled on his neck and throat area. He does not recall seeing that from the scene at the time. And then he performed CPR for so long without any response from the victim that they eventually just called it right there on the scene.
Yeah.
And that was the captain's job. He said Captain Keller was his captain, and he is the one who actually called him deceased on the scene. And then at that point, and like immediately at that point, they turn the scene over and they turn the body over to law enforcement, and they leave and go fill out their reports and pick up all of their equipment.
They asked who was the whiz. They asked him why he doesn't, when he first comes in and he checks pulse and sees somebody's not alive, don't do CPR, and why? Well, as cruel as it sounds, it's the body is a crime scene. The body is a crime scene. So basically now Charles is a crime scene, and fire department did what they had to do, and they turn it over to the law enforcement because Charles is a crime scene now. So,
Right. And law enforcement protocols for when to perform CPR are different than what fire department paramedic protocols are for when to perform CPR. So obviously, the whiz,
mhm.
uh, the the whiz did not determine that according to their protocols he should have performed CPR. And Lori kind of pressed him on that, and
Mhm.
he kind of stood up to that questioning pretty well. But I
Mhm.
wonder what her cross is going to be for this guy tomorrow.
Yeah. Abel99 says, was there a GSR test on Alex's hands? He
No
wasn't
idea.
arrested. Yeah, he wasn't arrested, so probably not. Not that
Probably
I.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Young black economist is coming in, saying hello, hello.
Hey there. Hey there, my friend. Good to see you in here. Um, so then she asks him if there were previous signs of CPR. And this is actually a pretty good point
Mhm.
because at some point in time, the 911 operator tries to talk Alex into doing CPR.
Yes.
And at this point in time in my mind, I'm not clear if he refused to do it or if he claimed he was doing it. Do you remember from your recent video
Yeah.
watching in preparation for this trial?
I know he said that he's dead. He's like he's not breathing, he's dead. I think he does do it, or he says he does it. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure. But
Wonder if anybody in chat remembers that.
yeah, he's pretty adamant about he's dead. So what's the point? Yeah, chat. Do you guys remember during Alex's 911 call, and he was being told to try CPR, do CPR? Do you guys remember specifically? Forrest says he did
For,
claim he tried. Yeah,
okay.
sorry. Yeah.
Yes. So then Mr. Cowden here says he did not see any evidence that there was CPR attempted on Charles.
Mhm.
And she says, in your professional experience and expertise, no.
Yeah.
And then they review the charting for the time of death. I think they said 8:48
Yep.
was
That's what I
was
have.
when they
Yep.
called the time of death.
Yep.
And then she asks him about the person in the driveway when they exited, when the fire department left. Did you see the person that was, standing near the driveway with the law enforcement officer when you first arrived? Yes, he was still there. Did you recognize that person? He said, I think somewhere I heard on the original call that the brother-in-law shot the brother, or the brother shot the brother-in-law, or whatever it was. So I
Mhm.
assumed that it was him. So I
Yep.
wonder if Lori's going to have anything to say about that.
Yep. Yeah, she gets up for cross and she says it's 4:30, and the judge asks how long will you go, and she says a while, and then
Yeah,
that
I was like,
was
that's the first thing that Lori did right today. I was
it.
I was seriously freaking out because I was like, why is the judge? We're supposed to go to 4:30. Why is the judge offering for Lori to get up there? We're going to be here till 5:30 or 6 o'clock tonight.
Right.
Like, she does not know how to be brief in her questions.
No, all of her pre-trials, when he would ask, "Is there anything else from defense?" She's like, "Yes, one more thing. Yes, one more thing. Yes, one more thing." So at the very, very end, where nothing, he asked both sides, "Is there anything else to discuss?" You're right. I was shocked that she's like, "Yeah, no, nothing more to discuss." She was good
Yeah,
because she always is like, "Well, just one more thing, a little bit of housekeeping, just one more thing." She always has just one more thing.
yeah, she does.
So awesome. Let's see if there guys chat. Do you have any specific questions? We've kind of been going through questions as they're coming up. So I think I've got them all. Um,
Forrest, she may have been getting tired, but I, I
oh.
honestly think it's more of a situation where she's representing herself. So she has to react in the moment when these
Mhm.
witnesses are up there testifying as to their testimony. Because I don't know that she's interviewed them, or her former defense teams have interviewed them as thoroughly, and that she really knows what they're going to be testifying to. So I think she's kind of responding, in the
Mhm.
moment to some of these answers that these guys have. So she's going to be stewing on that all night tonight. Like, her cross is going to be probably a
Mhm.
little bit better than it was, at least for the second law enforcement officer, if not for the first, just because she'll have more time, to go over the questions and answers.
Sure. Susie, I don't remember this. Alex said he washed his hands in the kitchen sink. That always seems weird to me. Is that I'm not familiar with that. Is
I
that
think I
something?
remember that vaguely in the back of my mind. That
Yeah.
sounds right.
Susie, where or how did you hear that? Was that like in his statement? Is
Or
that
or maybe in his interview, maybe.
yeah? Oh, Baca, can you ask Joe? Can you ask the camera person to focus it? They had some
Of course.
issues with the white balance. Well, you didn't watch any, but at the very beginning, the white balance was way off, and then they kind of sorted that out. But
Let's see. I know who the Court TV camera person is,
oh, okay.
but not personally. But I know who just by watching them operate. But I probably won't.
Yeah, no. Forrest says, I'm sure today was a learning experience for her. Oh, here,
Yeah, this whole
Forrest.
thing. Yeah.
Sorry, Forrest. Yeah, he said in his interview at the station that he washed his hands. Okay, I missed that. Yeah, Susie confirms it was in his interview. Okay, cool. Uh, Miss Shorty, you wash your hands at the kitchen sink for kitcheny stuff? Is that not okay?
Well, did you just shoot somebody? Are you calm and nonchalant?
Oh, this is a good point. Zero, the time span between first and second shots is very important, but I've never heard what it was. Do you know that answer?
I don't think we know.
Yeah.
The medical examiner may be able to determine it approximately based on the amount of blood that came out of the first one versus the second one, because the first one was through the heart. So his heart had at least begun, if not completely stopped, by the time he fired the second one. So there may have been less damage out of the second one.
Miss K, yeah, Miss Shorty. Joe, go up to the camera person with your flag and whistle. Um, Miss K said that the heart, you can still move after like up to 2 minutes. You can still move and I think maybe talk. So
Right.
if it took Alex more than 2 minutes, would the heart have stopped pumping? And then would there be less blood? Yeah, that'll be really interesting. For me, it's the 911 call and then the medical examiner. And then, of course, digital forensics, like cell phone tracking and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So where for you, like where do trials hinge for you? Like who are you, or if you do have a witness that you're always dying to or wanting to hear badly, is there a witness
Well,
that you always want to hear from?
this witness to me, is going to be the text messages,
Okay.
because that is going to be evidence of malice of forethought, of them
Mm-hmm.
planning together.
Mm-hmm.
And if they use a lot of code, which they did, to plan the murder, is the jury going to buy into the state's interpretation of what that code is?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
say, like the Nephi thing, like the juror may be just like, so what? So what? The Nephi thing, that means nothing to me.
Yeah.
That's not proof of anything. So the state's going to have to connect that. They're going to have to connect it through the text messages. She did mention at one point in her opening, Ms. K, that that some of the messages were not stored on the cloud, but they
Mm-hmm.
still were able to obtain them anyway.
Yep.
So
Yeah, they got the reports, right? The cell phone. Yeah, they got the reports, but they couldn't get the from the iCloud. She mentioned that, or from the cloud, whatever. Yeah,
yeah,
she made a point of saying that. Which does that mean? Okay, so they went to the carrier then and got the report so they can see what the
yeah.
text messages were.
I would guess that's so, because I think that
Okay.
in certain circumstances you can get the actual text messages, and not just the fact that there was a text message sent, because some reports are just the fact there was a phone call made, there was a text message, and not any of the content of either of those. I mean, we hardly ever hear about phone calls, but text messages in particular, if the carrier can provide those and did, I will be interested to see those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we do have some of those text messages. We've gone over some of them,
Mm-hmm.
in the last couple of months in preparation for this trial.
Mm-hmm.
Just wonder what more is out there, because I don't remember seeing the one about Nephi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm interested to see what actually they do play. They teased it. I mean, she did talk about, Lori texts Ned is gone. It's a new one. Alex texts back, Charles' body's alive. I mean, she is Trina's definitely teasing it, and I think she will bring the receipts. Whereas with Lori, she'll say, Alex was coming out. The evidence will show Alex was coming out pulling up his pants without a shirt on. It's like, what evidence is going to show that? So
Maybe she'll portal us all back in time to stand in that room and watch.
Right. All right, my friend. I think that's all I got for tonight. You do you have anything else you want to add before we say goodnight? What time did you get up? Like, are you get up at like 3 or 4 in the morning? Like, what
Yep.
time are you getting up?
Not by choice.
Yeah.
And I don't mean not by choice to go to this trial. Like, I
Yeah.
don't need to get up that early to get there in time for that. That's just, my body wakes me up at that time every morning.
Oh,
Pretty much
wow.
every morning.
Ouch. I feel for you.
Years and years of being a paper boy and having to have that paper delivered by 5:30 in the morning.
It's ingrained in you right now.
Yes, it sets an internal clock of sorts.
All right. Well, I'll let you say goodbye, and then I'll say goodbye, and I'll end the stream if you want to. Here, I'll remove myself if you want to say goodbye. Then I'll come back on.
Hey, goodbye, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here. Thanks for following. Don't forget to like. And if you're at the replay crew, don't forget to comment below. Back in court tomorrow for day 2. We'll start with cross-examination of Scott Cowden, Chandler Fire Department.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe, for dual streaming. You get it tomorrow, right? We're gonna send it over to you for tomorrow. So, chat, please do what Joe said. Like, subscribe. Well, you already are subscribed, but comment as well. That helps the algorithms as well. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you guys tomorrow at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. And definitely follow Joe on Twitter, on X. He's posting some great stuff there. And looking forward to talking to you tomorrow.
Take care.
All right, Joe. Have a good one. Bye.
You too.